welcome to this week's episode of Witchy Shit and Manga Lit with Cardibus and Rawia. This week, we're talking about finding and working with your deities and triggers in media. We'll also be talking about Demon Slayer, Cowboy Beebop, animes we love, and Quinn App. Let's get into it. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Witchy Shit and Manga Lit with Cardibus and Rawia. And today we are gonna have some topics for you. We have several different topics for you, and so buckle up. And we're gonna get right into it. So, before we hopped on, we are talking about shit that was happening with our health, and that's important. I'm chronically ill, and Card said you are dealing with long COVID. Uh,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
So basically, we were just discussing how we were not having very good weeks this week because both of us were in not a great space health wise. And I was like, hey, why don't we start? Because I think that that's important for people to know that, like, even though we seem like super lively and happy when we're on the pod like this, that doesn't mean we're like that all the time. And
No.
sometimes, like yesterday, I spent most of the day sleeping because I had a massive headache and a fever. And I've had a fever all week. And I probably have a fever right now, but it's pretty low. So I'm doing okay. Um, but like that's just how I live. I'm in my fever time. I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's like allergy season, but for fevers, and it's for me only. um, but yeah, so it's basically I've had a fever every day for 2 weeks now, and it's probably
Ooh.
going to continue for another month and a half. It's usually from March through May, so it like is later than normal, which is weird
Huh?
for me. Yeah, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, and that's around the time when you originally got like
Yeah.
COVID. Like, so it's your body's like, oh fuck, and it's a fucked up anniversary when your body's like, I'm gonna remember
Yes.
this.
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, remember that time when we almost died? That was fun. Let's
Let's revisit.
let's have a party every 6 months about it, and I'll just give
Hmm.
you a fever as a gift, and I don't want this gift. Please take it back."
Hmm. And I was dealing with because I'm diabetic. I have polycystic ovarian syndrome. I deal with diabetes, hypertension. I have osteoporosis in my spine, so I have constant like back pain, bulging disc, and all this other stuff. And I had this week, my doctor put me on a new medication for my diabetes. And I was like, let me try this other medication that I've been on before and know the effects of. And she's like, no, let's try this one because it's not going to make you hungry. And fuck being like hungry. Like I could deal with my hunger. Like none of my doctors, I feel, believe me about that I have. And I deal with at times a restrictive eating disorder. They're like, you're fat. You can't have a restrictive eating disorder. Like this doesn't add up. Like I'm like, bitch, it adds up with the PCOS, like in my metabolism and all this other stuff that's going on with my body and all kinds of how trauma shows up in the body, how systematic oppression shows up in the body. I'm like, fuck you, bitches. Um,
Yeah.
but so I tried the new medicine because she's a doctor and I thought that she knew like what she was talking about. Even though I pushed back like 3 times in the appointment, she's like, just let's just try it and see. And then I woke up one night with my blood sugar at 60. And I almost went back to sleep. I had told her, look, I had a breakup. Like I was sad. I was stress eating. Like I was eating a lot of chocolate. That's what I survived off of. And that's why my A1C went up. And she's like, well, let's just try this new medication. Blood sugar 60. And I almost went back to sleep because I'm on a continuous glucose monitor, which I'm going to show y'all because I don't know if y'all know what one looks like. But here it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've got tech
Also,
connected
for
to me.
anyone who doesn't know, 60 is very low, like
60 is
dangerously
low.
low.
Dangerously low. Anything below 70 is you're getting low. 50 is when you pass out and you need medical help and hope that someone else is there because you could die. Um, so my blood sugar dropped. I like was about to go back to sleep, except I felt nauseous in a way I never felt nauseous before. And I did a finger prick test with my blood, and it was like, no, bitch, you at 60. And I was like, ah, fuck. So luckily, I had some glucose tabs next to me. Like, I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and my numbers went up after an hour. But I'm like, fuck this medication. And since I've said fuck this medication, and I've just been like eating like 6 meals a day, getting a lot of protein in, my blood sugar's like, we're fine. And I'm like, I told this bitch that. I told this bitch. But she was, she was
She would not listen.
yeah, she was like, "You're fat. You like you're like you don't need things that are gonna make you hungry because it'll just make you fatter." Um,
The American healthcare system, folks.
in a nutshell, like killing me not so softly. So yeah, so that's been what's been going on with my health, and then I met with my useless psychiatrist. I have a psychiatrist, you guys. I'm on
A
several
useless
useless
psychiatrist.
psychiatrist.
Tell me how you really feel.
My psychiatrist is
Like,
useless.
this bitch doesn't do
Um,
anything.
No, she doesn't. Like, I'm on like antipsychotics and stuff like that for my bipolar. I feel like they misdiagnosed me as bipolar type 2. I feel like I'm type 1 because I deal with suicidal ideations. But they're just like, oh, but you can function. So you can't be type 1 because you're not in a mental institution right now. And I'm like,
Do you want me
have
to
you
be?
have you met Generation Y? Like, we are.
Like, we're constantly in that state. It's like, I don't know anybody who's not, like, low-key like, "Mm, yeah, that wouldn't be so bad. I could
Yeah.
take a long nap, a really long nap."
Really, I could take a perma nap, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm like, have you met us? Have you like we're all out here functioning, and we're like so like our souls are just like wrecked. Like, we're one step from Gen X cynicism. Um, like, we're really close to it. But my useless psychiatrist was just like, "How are you doing? Da da da, blah blah blah." And a few months ago, I was like, I was losing my shit, y'all. Like,
Mhm.
a few months ago, before this, I was so depressed and manic and having mixed states of depression and mania. And she was like, well, let's just see how it plays out. And I'm like, the meds
What?
aren't working. What do you mean? Let's see how it plays out. Obviously, I need some fucking adjustments. But no adjustments were made. But I started meditating and doing yoga every day, and that has been very helpful. So now, adjusting my meds, I'm like, let me do this as holistically as possible. So, like, yeah, I did other stuff. Yeah, our health system. Our
Yeah.
health system. It's bad.
I'm
It's
gonna be
bad.
honest, actually, this podcast has been really helpful to me because I
Mm,
have something to think about and something to look forward to every week. 'Cause we get to hang
yeah.
out for 2 hours and talk about stuff that is interesting, and I like talking
Yes.
about stuff that's interesting.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I wish I could
Bodies.
meditate.
Oh,
It's so
friend, let me tell
it's
you.
my my
I got this.
ADHD is like playing the friggin' Six Flags song in my head
Mhm.
every time I try to, like, calm my body. It's like do 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 do
There's
do do do.
moving meditations. There's meditations where you can try to focus on stuff, and there's meditations where you can like just let your mind like wander and be in your mind. Like, I think we have this concept of meditation through a Western view of meditation, that if you're
Mm,
doing it right, it means like nothing's happening. And it's not about that. Well, at least when I meditate, I'm fidgeting, I'm like humming, like I check my phone sometimes, like how long we got in this bitch. Like, I do 15-minute meditations, and I'm like, how long we got? And the clock is like, you got 13 minutes. I'm like, fuck. 13
I think,
minutes
like,
left.
actually, that's
We've
a
been
really
here
good
forever.
point. I think maybe that's why I like yoga and doing art so much is because my hands and my body are doing something, it allows my mind to just kind of space out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Though, yeah. Yeah,
For me, it's about awareness.
I used to freaking trance while painting. I would put on, like,
Mm.
trance music and, like but, I mean, I don't wanna say it's because I was using oils in an enclosed space for an extended amount of time, but that probably wasn't helping anything. Oh my god, I probably have brain cancer. This is not good.
Oh man. I understand, not with the paints and oils, but with E6000.
What's that?
It's like an adhesive, powerful glue.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that I was using to put rhinestones on costumes.
Yes. Yeah, that'll do it. Glue will
Without a window open.
Meanwhile,
And after a while,
we're,
you
like,
don't
out
smell it.
here admitting to, like, inadvertently huffing paint and glue. Don't do that at home, kids. It's
Don't do
bad for
it. Don't
you.
do it. Don't do it. It'll give you the wobbles. Yeah. But for me,
Anyway.
meditation is all about like awareness. So I'm getting more awareness of my body and what's
Mhm.
going on. Like I'm aware of how my thoughts are moving now. I'm aware of things like when I'll often use things like ruminating when I'm meditating, like, and I'm thinking about them, thinking, ruminating, obsessing, stop it. Like there's a dialogue happening. And then as soon as I start to get into it, then the timer's like, you're done with your meditation. I'm like, "Ah." So it takes like
You're
10
well,
minutes for me.
maybe it's gonna take less and less time to get into it once it becomes, like, a process that your body recognizes.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? Kind of like
I
when you
agree.
stretch, if you stretch enough, your body's just gonna start stretching automatically
Mhm.
because of how your body works.
Mhm. It gets used to it. It adapts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping it does for meditation because I'm seeing the effects. Like my blood pressure is coming down and I'm able to focus and concentrate on stuff a little bit better. So that's been great, but I am like a pouty child when it comes time for meditation.
I
Like
don't wanna
my
but then, like, once you're doing it, you're like, "Oh, this is kinda nice."
Yes, yes, that part, that's it exactly. So yeah, we have to do all this stuff for all, and I have a herbologist. My herbologist is great. Like I have an herbologist. He has me on medication for like my heart rate, something very, very mild for my blood sugar, and something for my grief too.
Wait,
So,
can you hook me up with your herbologist? Because,
oh my
my
God, yes.
my heart rate is, like, shitty, and maybe herbs could actually help with my long COVID symptoms in a way that, like, medication hasn't been doing. Like, Tylenol
Mhm.
doesn't touch me anymore. Like, if I take Tylenol when I have a
Ooh,
high
mhm.
fever, it'll just bring my fever down a couple of degrees. So, like, if I have 103 fever, it makes it 100, which again, not great, but, like, it's livable at that temperature,
Yeah,
I guess. But, like, at the same time, I would rather not be like this all the time. I would rather not be
yeah,
exhausted constantly. I would rather not have
yeah.
breathing problems and heart rate at 102 for no reason. I didn't get to have coffee but one day this week because my heart rate was,
Oh
like,
no,
through the roof the
friend.
entire week. I was so mad because,
Oh,
like, you know how I love coffee.
yes.
But no coffee, just tea. Just
Oof.
tea, which I love tea as well, but I want to be able to have both. I want both, and I had coffee
Yeah.
today. I probably shouldn't have, but I did because fuck the police. I mean uh,
Yeah, he
uh,
has me on Motherwort and Rose and Hawthorne, I believe.
hmm,
I have to double check. He's great. His name is Rylan. He's great. I'm gonna like connect the two of you.
okay.
He's amazing, witchy, like trained to be a doctor and then was like, wow, modern medicine sucks at treating people like people. And so then became this herbologist.
Well, he sounds cool.
Oh, he is the fucking coolest. So that's who I'm working on for my support. But them tinctures are wild, Carta. Like, I'm taking them tinctures like, and it's like swallow. And I'm like, we've had enough of swallowing bad things in our life. So,
Well,
um,
luckily, I like bitter things, so, hopefully I won't be too gagged about it.
this is great. I will connect the two of you together, and yeah. So yeah, so that's like we are definitely human beings dealing with all sorts of stuff and mishaps and chronic illness and all that other stuff. So yeah.
And we may miss weeks sometimes because we're busy or we're sick, and that's just gonna happen. That's just how this podcast is gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's okay. That's okay because we have fun
Yeah.
together, and that's the main thing.
Yeah.
So besides
So
health stuff, what have you been doing this week otherwise?
this week, otherwise, I've been working on my book. My editor was like, this rhymes. My editor on one of the comments that has stuck with me on my writing is my editor was like, this rhyme scheme is juvenile. And I'm like, ouch.
Oh my god.
Like, I'm like,
Rude.
ouch. She was right though. She was like 100% right. Like, but I was still like, um and the concept of the book has changed. Like, at first it was kind of like this memoirish kind of thing, like come with me on a journey type thing, and now it's changed to this whole, the through line of it is the mammy archetype, which I can't wait to start to talk with you about when we talk
Mm,
about the one of the other subjects we're talking about in this podcast. I don't want to give it away until we're there. um But yeah, we like the whole thing has become about, which makes sense. The name of the book is Mammy is Dead. My handle is Mammy is Dead on
mhm.
Instagram. Like, my blog is titled Mammy is Dead. So the whole thing about the book has become, who was Mammy? How was Mammy like, how was Mammy personified in me? What does Mammy mean to me? How did I kill Mammy, and who is left after Mammy is gone? So like this whole book
Ooh.
has, right? It's become
Ooh,
about me, but more
yeah.
than me. It's like become expansive. And part of me is kind of like, who the fuck am I to have these like end all say all conversations about Mammy? And it's like, you've had the lived experience. And so I'm holding on to that. And I finally sat down to start really, really, really editing. And I was just texting my editor, like, I get it. Cause she's like, you're using I so much in your writing that people can't connect. Like, you have to move it into the second person, like you, we, all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, 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 okay. And I started looking at things, and I'm like, oh, she right. Like, I'm at the point of my own writing where I'm like annoyed with the I, annoyed with some of the rhyming, annoyed with some of the stiffness. So I'm trying to do that work of re-editing, editing and writing new content, from this whole new place and standing in my own power. So that's happening. I'm also in this thing called Queer Rebels Fest, which is going to be
Ooh.
happening June 2nd online. You could go to queerrebels.org, or it's queerrebels.org or queerrebels.com and
Make
find
sure
more
to link it
information.
in the notes.
Oh, I will. Yeah, that's right. We can link stuff now, and we can link
Uh-huh.
stuff on YouTube. It's great.
We can.
Um, So I'm doing that. And my film is going to be shown again later this month in June at Safe House Arts in San Francisco in the Tenderloin, or what we now know as the trans district, transgender district, the world's first transgender district in San Francisco. And what else is happening? So that's what I'm doing. I also have a workshop coming up, weekend after next, I believe, and that's called no, Circling Self, rituals for those who don't know how to boundary, or creating a magical and practical fuck around and find out practice.
Yep, signed up for
So
that one already
yeah,
because I need it. I need it in my life.
so that one's happening. And the media that I've been consuming, because I'm doing a lot of writing right now,
Mhm.
so I haven't been consuming as much media. Um, well, the literary tarot, my literary tarot deck came. So I've
Yes.
been playing with that. And that tarot deck is all about like books, and that each card is based on a book and stuff like that, and they're beautifully done. They've got this gold gilding on it. I got the booster pack. Like, I'm in love with this deck. There's not much space on my night table, but by my night table, that deck is on my night table to draw a card every day. So I've been consuming that and loving that and rolling around in that. And the only other thing I've been doing is I've been watching Jodie Whittaker's
I was
season
gonna say, you
of
definitely been
Doctor
watching Doctor
Who.
Who because you've been texting me about it.
I I am loving Jodie Whittaker's season, Jodie Whittaker's turn as Doctor Who, as a doctor. Like, fuck. Like, I am on pins and needles the whole time. This seems like way higher stakes than the other doctors. Like, they're just, I know that things are going to turn out okay for the most part because of who her doctor is and who her doctor is, like who she's projecting. But like, there's just like, I don't know, the shit that they're dealing with is insane. And then the new master made an appearance, and I am like, he is so vile and
So
terrifying
scary.
and scary, yes, and kind of hot. Like, I'm scared of you kind of way. Um, so yeah, like, and I like that actor. Like, I like that actor. Like, I've seen him in other stuff before, and I'm just like, oh shit. And so enticing. Like, the way he plays the master is just so like unfucking hinged, and I hate him so much.
That means he's a
I
really good villain.
He's really good. Like, I hate him the way I'm afraid I'm gonna hate Coleman Domingo when the new Color Purple movie comes out.
Mm.
Because Coleman Domingo's playing Mister, and I hated Mister. Like, in the original, Danny Glover played Mister, and I was
I
like,
was
I
so mad
hate
at
you,
it
Danny
too.
Glover. I'm like, it
I
took
was just
me
like, "Ugh."
decades to forgive him. Decades.
Seriously.
So that's
But
what
th
I've been up to. That's what I've been doing.
that's how you know a good actor, though, is if they
That's
can really
true. Can you
embody a
hate them?
villain.
Can you hate
Yeah.
them? Like the one who played, I remember Heroes, like when I was watching Heroes when it was out. Like, and the actor is Zachary Quinto
Quinto,
or
yes.
Quinto. Oh my god. Oh, drool over him as Spock. But
Styler?
he played Siler.
Yeah,
Siler.
yeah.
And I was like, I hate you. So when they said he was gonna play Spock, I was like, I ain't watching these movies. But then I saw him dressed up as Spock.
And you were like, "I'm watching these movies."
I was like, I am on Zachary Quinto's dick. Like, I am on his dick. Um, and the only other thing I've been consuming is there's this app called Quinn,
Mm.
and it's like just dirty talk. Dirty talk meaning talk to you by people. Like, they have non-binary voices, they have like male and female voices, but there's this one guy called the sensational one.
Uh-huh.
He's he has this one track called Friends to Lovers, and he's like, it starts off with like, no, you're not a burden. You're not a burden. You made the best decision. Like, I
Oh,
know that he was
no.
treating you badly. He's like, do you want a cup of wine? I'll make you a cup of wine. You could spend the night here. I'll put fresh sheets on the bed. You should go take a shower. Then he's like, oh shit, I forgot my phone. And then he comes into the shower and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean this. And I guess obviously like we say something like, you can come into the shower. And he gets in there and he's all like, you got a big ass and it was made for these big hands. And he's like, call your ex on the phone so he can hear me tearing that ass apart. Like, and then the phone rings, and then the phone rings, and you can hear the ex on the phone going like, hello, hello. All you hear is whap, 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 wet because they're in the shower, right? And he's like, oh my God, oh my God. And he's like, hang up on him, hang up on him. And then he's like, He's like, yeah, you want me to eat that ass, don't you? I'm gonna eat that ass. He's just in the ass. And then at the end, he's like, damn, he's like, I love you, wanna cuddle? And I'm
Well, you like come 4 times already.
oh my God. Oh my God. And then in his second one, he's like, those stretch marks are so hot. He's like, I love your fucking stretch marks. Give me them panties so I can smell how you've been waiting for me all day.
God
Yes.
damn.
Yes. Yes. So that's what I've been doing this week. Check.
I legit don't know how to follow up from that because stratosphere, that's where we are now. And I'm like, yeah, my shit's not that interesting.
Oh my God, I love this stuff because every time you start talking about what you're watching, I'm like, let me pull out my phone so I can add that shit to Crunchyroll.
Okay, so this week I did mention that I have opinions because I do, and the opinions are thus. So I have been doing a lot more art lately, and last week
Mm-hmm.
I was like rushing to make 8 paintings in 4 days, which I
Oh
got it
wow.
done. What? Me? Go me.
Yay!
Anyway, so but I needed something to listen to and I ran out of our podcast because I had saved up 2 episodes, but like I ran out of
Mm-hmm.
them within like a day and a half because we're awesome and I love listening to us. So I was like on a hunt in Spotify to find some other podcasts and I found a couple that I listened to like well one of them I only listened to half an episode to because okay, so there was this one called Anime After Dark. Like I was looking for like anime podcasts, which may have been
Mm-hmm.
my first mistake. But um so Anime After Dark is like I want to say like 12 people or something. It's like a ridiculous amount of people on this show. I don't know how they do it. And like so they're like sitting there introducing themselves and talking, but then like there's some heavy breathing in there and I'm like one of these guys is fucking right now. That has and like I kept listening. I'm like I can't listen to this, it's too distracting, like,
Yeah.
'cause, like, it like, other people they're, like, having conversations. People are having
Mm-hmm.
conversations, like, virtually,
Mm-hmm.
and just one of them's on there going, like, like, repeatedly, and I'm just like, "Fucking" and so I'm like, I don't think I can listen to this one. So, like, I stopped listening to that one, and I went to this other one, called Anime Out of Context,
Mm-hmm.
and, uh, that one was also a mistake, but for a different reason. And that one, was a mistake because it is 2 20-something cishet white guys talking about anime. So, that was and when I tell you I was basically hate listening to like 7 episodes of this podcast because like they do like different shows every time. And like half the
Mm-hmm.
time I do actually want to hear them shit on a show because I don't like that show also. Though in their show
Mm-hmm.
for SAO. So the premise of the podcast is the weeb Sean shows his friend Remington that an anime and Remington knows nothing about anime. That's the
Okay.
premise. So episode 2, they do SAO, Sword Art Online. And
Mm-hmm.
I like have a love-hate relationship with SAO because it's fun, but it is also absolute trash. It is not a good anime. Do not watch it. It is
Confession,
it,
I like Sword Art Online.
I mean, I have watched the whole thing, so I can't really talk. But yeah, it's trash. I'm just saying to the audience that if you're looking for quality anime, maybe go for something else, but if you're looking for a fun romp where they have a sister who's in love with the main character. Definitely go with Sword Art Online. If you want a light novel adaptation, definitely go with Sword Art. That's the mistake. Whenever they do the light novel ones, they always end up with either incest or like a giant age gap for no reason. And I don't know why.
That's true.
But like 90% of the ones, because there's another one called like The Irregular at Magic High or whatever, and that one's like really well
Mhm.
done. Like I like the animation and the characters are fun. But again, it has like kind of a blank slate main character whose sister is madly in love with him, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, Jesus Christ, why?" But at least the animation is good on that. Anyway, so I'm listening to these dudes shit on Sword Art Online, and they kept saying his name Kirito, and I just wanted to punch them in the throat. It's Kirito.
Mhm. I'm like, what?
Kirito. Yeah, I'm like,
That's almost as
y'all.
bad as Berthold.
Oh my god! So the Kyokana Maho, there's a character named Conrad in it, but I don't
Mhm.
know if his name is Conrad, Conrart, or Conrad because they do a different translation in the subtitles every single time.
Mhm.
That reminded me of that thing I sent you with the Berthold.
Yes, that's what made me think of it.
But yeah, so I was mad at them for saying that for saying Kirito, and then like they crapped on my love story. Well, Remington did. And I was like, you clearly have no taste.
Wait,
And
wait, wait,
then
wait. My Love Story? Isn't that
the
the
one
one
about
with
the
your boy
giant
and
dude with the
yeah.
yeah. That's adorable. That one's adorable.
Sacrilege.
I was like, you little fuck. Because they're like 20 something. So they're like babies. And I'm like, okay, so clearly you just haven't grown taste. And that's that's the issue. Luckily when they watched Given, his complaints were actual cinematic reasons and they made sense.
Mhm.
But like, and he wasn't like, this is terrible. He was just like, I don't like the way this character did that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that, fair, an actual critique for once. So good job.
Mhm.
Maybe the later episodes do get better. But in the episode about Akira, Remington
Ooh.
said
Uh-huh.
that Cowboy Bebop is mid. And that is when I decided I
Ooh.
hated him.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's
So
just he needs to get the anime taken away from
mm,
him.
completely. He doesn't deserve it
He needs to
because
get the anime.
obviously he doesn't understand cinematic masterpieces. And
Oh my
then
god.
I told this other kid that I talked to that he should watch Cowboy Bebop, and he was like, "Well, why should I watch Cowboy Bebop? Because you haven't watched my recommendation of Demon Slayer yet." And I'm like, "Shut the fuck up! Fine, I'll watch Demon Slayer." And so I watched Demon Slayer this week too, but I also watched Cowboy Bebop again because yes, I
Yeah.
love me some Bebop. Um,
Mhm.
so, but yeah, I was so mad that he said Cowboy Bebop was mid. So we started watching. I basically decided to show Kirk Cowboy Bebop because it was like, I'm tired of Boruto being bad. Can we watch? Do you have any more
Watch
of them
something good.
isekai that we can watch? And because like I've been
Mhm.
showing him trash isekai too because they're fun. They're fun to
Mhm.
watch, and Boruto is currently not fun to watch. He
Mhm.
was literally like, "How many episodes are in this stupid sea arc? Oh God, 5, really? Can we take a break?" And I'm like, yes, we can.
Mhm.
But instead of yet another trash isekai, we're gonna watch Cowboy Bebop because you haven't seen it. And he's like, okay. First episode, he's like, so this episode had the budget for an entire season of Boruto, I see. And I was like, yes, it is high quality animation throughout. And the
Mhm.
soundtrack is a bop. And all of the
Yes.
characters I am in love with. And oh my God, Ed is the best. Every time Ed's on screen,
Mhm.
though, Kurt's like, this this feels like Avatar. And I was like, I'm very sure Avatar was super influenced by Cowboy Bebop, to be honest, because
Mhm.
of the way that they animated Aang and the way that they told the story in
Mhm.
both subtle and overt ways. Because the other thing that I'm noticing about Cowboy Bebop, watching it as an adult is a completely different experience than watching it as a kid.
Mm.
Because
Mhm.
last time I saw it, it came out when I was like 16. And we watched it within
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 years of it coming out. So I was still like, I was under 20 when I watched Bebop the first time.
Mhm.
And watching it as an adult, it has some story elements that like I just did not understand as a kid. Like the Jupiter Jazz arc where we meet Gren, who uh
Mhm.
like he was a soldier with Vicious, and like he considered him a comrade, and then Vicious like turned against him because Vicious is a dickbag to everyone. I
Mhm.
fucking hate Vicious. Um,
Mhm.
and like at the end when stuff happens, like a lot of people die in Bebop, and I forgot that fact. Just like shit tons of people. It's first episode, like their bounties either keep getting killed or the cops find them first. They never get a bounty, not once.
Mhm.
And I also
Poor
forgot that
babies.
fact. I know, right? I'm like, oh, you deserve.
It reminds me of oh Jesus. Firefly
It was before
a little
Firefly, though,
bit.
wasn't it?
It was before Firefly, yeah. So
I
when I
feel
was
like
watching
Firefly
Firefly, I
tried
was
to
like,
be
"Oh, that's
Cowboy
some."
Bebop, and it couldn't.
Yes.
It just
No.
couldn't.
No.
You can't do Bebop again. And I was thinking about it because there was at the time, I feel like in the late 90s, there was the trifecta of awesome anime that was genre undefinable. And that was
Oh my
Bebop,
God.
Evangelion, and Trigun. Because
Mhm.
all three of those are vaguely sci-fi, vaguely dystopian, and also like have elements where all of a sudden the show turns into something it wasn't before.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yes. Ooh. Evangelion was also one of my gateway anime.
Yeah, that one, like all three of them I loved in very different ways because Bebop I have like almost a pure innocent love about, even though now
Mhm.
watching it I'm like this was not innocent at all. This was
Mhm. I'm gonna have to watch it again.
in fact, you absolutely should. You will not be disappointed at
I'll
all.
watch that and Samurai Champloo again.
I have never seen that one.
Ooh, watch it. Ooh. That soundtrack is also a fucking bop. Like that
Ooh,
soundtrack
yeah.
is so good because it has a lot of hip hop stylings and elements in it.
Mhm.
It's just it's a vibe. Like totally check that one out.
I will. I will add that to my list.
I think it was
And,
beautifully done.
uh but so, yeah, so I watched also the first season of Demon Slayer. Um,
Yes.
that was like there were things that I was not expecting. So, first
Mhm.
off, because everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's the best animation ever." The animation is good, especially the Sakuga. The Sakuga is some of the best I've ever seen. And
I don't think
for
it's the best anime I've ever seen, but it's good. You're right.
no, I specifically am talking about the Sakuga no though, not like the anime as a whole, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So for our audience who may not know, the Sakuga is basically it's seen as higher tier animation where the studio has selected specific scenes to do at like a higher frame rate or with more elaborate animation than the rest of the show. That's considered Sakuga. So a lot of shows will do the battle animation is Sakuga. And the battle animation in Demon Slayer is absolutely top tier.
Mhm.
The rest of the animation is good, but I don't think I would consider it like the top of the top because I'm a little annoyed by the 3D walk cycles because I can tell that they're just 3D models that they've animated
Yeah.
to a specific walk cycle, and I
Mhm.
get that that somebody who like people who aren't used to that may not be trained on that. And yeah, like a lot of the use of the 3D in the show is excellent. It's really really good. So I'm not going to say that it's bad. I'm just saying that because it's so noticeable to me, um it like knocks it down in comparison to something like Cowboy Bebop where everything is hand animated and every single scene like they think cinematically in that one. Like they're like framing shit in specific ways that like you would not think about. Like watch it again, you know what I'm talking about. But with
Okay.
Demon Slayer, the other point is so Zenitsu is like one of the most annoying characters I've ever seen in my life. I cannot stand that kid. I'm just like, I
He
want
cannot get his shit
to
together.
shut you up. Please shut up. But also, Inosuke is my boy, which is no surprise to
Mm.
anyone who knows me at all because I have a very, very soft spot for himbos. So I am looking forward to the train arc, which we will watch at the same time
Yes.
because Rengoku is in that one, and he is also a himbo, but a different type of himbo. We have two very different himbos in the show, which I'm very
Mhm.
excited about. We have a very straightforward one who just says whatever the fuck is on his mind, and we have one who will not calm the fuck down, which
Mhm.
are both great in different ways.
Mhm.
Just
How
running
do you feel about the
headlong into
Michael
a
Jackson memes about your boy?
oh my
Aren't they
god.
just spot on? They're so good. They're so good.
So, like, I both love and hate Muzan, which means he's an excellent baddie. He's
Mhm.
just top tier in baddie land because one, he's gorgeous. Like
Super
the
gorgeous.
the the whole I'm gonna be in a kimono. Yes.
And kill
Yeah.
bitches. Imma be in
Oh
kimono
my
and
god.
savage these
Just like
hoes.
destroy and the sadist demon being like, "Yes, daddy, kill me now." It's like, "Oh my god. You need to calm down." "Oh no, they're putting him on the train?" Yes.
Mhm, mhm.
So, like also though, like in the show so something that I did not know that Zach told me was that the author, Gotoge, sensei may be non-binary. They use a pen
What?
name, so, like, no one knows who they really are, but they may actually identify as non-binary, which would make a
Which would
lot of
make
things make
sense.
sense. Yeah. I'm just like, "Oh, so that's why there's queer flavor in here." I'm into
Oh,
it, though. I'm into it a lot.
yeah.
And the other thing, though, that was
Wow.
it was a little interesting and I had to get used to was the fact that so and I was talking to Ron about this last night, the difference between cinematic language and anime language. So, Cowboy Bebop uses a lot more cinematic language than anime language. Like the only time we see a lot of anime language is with Spike or with Ed. We're not seeing a lot of anime language outside of those characters. And also, Cowboy Bebop has a lot of queer rep too. Like there's there's a
Oh.
point when, like, they break into somebody's house trying to, like, get information, and there's 2 dudes in bed, and instead of freaking out about it, they're just like, "Where the fuck is this guy we're looking for?" And they're like, "I don't know." And they're like, "Sorry to mess up your night. Bye." And it's like, "Oh my god, okay." And it's just like a little snippet like that, but, like,
Mhm.
it's normal, and, like,
Ed,
doesn't
yeah.
Ed is not necessarily any gender.
Mhm.
Ed has just said, "I'm not a boy." That's it. So they
Yep.
they they translate a lot of her, but Ed has never stated, "I'm a girl," ever.
Mhm.
And so in general, you just refer to Ed as Ed
As
because
Ed,
Ed is
yeah.
just Ed.
Yeah, no one calls Ed by any pronoun.
Yeah,
It's
no.
always if you see Ed written about, it's always like, "Ed, Ed." And more recently, because of the live action, I think, which I haven't seen at all,
They did
like,
not have
there's
Ed in the live action.
they what?
Yeah, they didn't have I that was my biggest beef with
I
it is
thought they
that
were
they
gonna put Ed in the live action. It was this whole promo with Ed and being called they. Like they didn't put.
I don't think so. I haven't seen it though, but, like, from what I heard, Ed is not in it. Ed was
That's some
going to
fuck
be in s
shit.
Yeah, I think Ed was gonna be in season 2, but they canceled it, so there was no way
Oh
for Ed to come
my
up.
god.
Yeah. I don't know, I'll watch the live action at some point as well just to see it, but, like, yeah, I did not know that was a thing, but,
Yeah, there was. Yeah. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm gonna have to like look it up. Look it up. I'm gonna have to look it up because they got a non-binary actor to play Ed,
there's,
and
like, a
I'm
good chance that I'm wrong because I like I said, I haven't seen it, but, like, from what I thought, Ed wasn't in it. Is
I will
Ed
check it out. I will check it out.
Yeah, let's do
Am I
some
really? I'm gonna
research.
fast forward through the episodes.
I will watch it just to see, but I'm not expecting much based on what I've heard so far.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like in what I love about Bebop so much is like they really do frame things like it's a cinema. Like they'll have scenes where like the foreground is blurred and the background is crisp. They'll
Mhm.
have scenes where like there's motion blur and shit like that you would see in like an action movie in the animation, and I'm just like, "Oh, yes." Um, because I kind of, get off on really good animation. So like I said, I was enjoying Demon Slayer. Like, I binged the entire thing in 4 days, the first season, 26 episodes. So,
Mhm.
obviously, it did a good job. But the thing with, that was kind of throwing me off a bit is that one portion of anime language itself is large eyes are for children and women, and
Mhm.
smaller eyes are for men and adults. So, literally everyone in Demon Slayer has giant fucking eyes, and I'm
Mhm.
like, "I can't tell how old you are."
Yeah.
Like, the master comes out, and I'm like, "Are you 20 or 200? I don't know."
Mhm.
And I don't like that I don't know this. It's a
Mhm.
problem. And I was trying to figure out why it bothered me so much, and my massage therapist, he was like, "You can't figure out who's hot, can you? Because you can't tell how old they are."
Oh.
I'm like, "You son of a bitch. You're right, but shut the fuck up." I mean, because like, Tanjiro's clearly a child, but
Mhm.
is he? Because we've already done 2 years in this show, and he was the oldest child originally, but what age did he start out as?
Oh.
Did he start out as 14? Is he
Yeah.
16 now? Did he start out as 16? Is he 18 now? Like, how
Yeah.
the fuck old is Tanjiro?
My
Who knows?
brain. You're right.
So the only one that I can say for
Oh
sure,
my
for sure,
god.
for sure is hot is the
Is
bad
the
guy.
is the bad guy. Oh my god.
Like, even Butterfly Lady, how old is she? I don't
Oh my
know.
god. He's 13 years old at the
What?
beginning. Yeah. Yeah, he's 13 years old. Um, and he's 15 years old in the second season.
Okay, so him being child coded does make sense because he's a fucking child, which
Mhm.
means that Nezuko first started out as 11 and is now uh 14,
She's 12 at the start of the story.
12. She's like 1 year lower than him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Well, how old is Inosuke and Zenitsu then?
How old is Inosuke? 15.
Okay, so they're all just children. Good to know. I mean, they are child coded, but that the thing is like everyone's child coded, so it's very confusing. I mean, even Rengoku has like
Yeah.
giant ass eyes, but I'm sure that he's at least 19. And like even Tengen has giant ass eyes and he's got like 3 wives. What the fuck? Though like after hearing him talk
Oh my
about how
god.
everything should be flamboyant, I'm like, I get it.
Mhm. Mhm.
I get
Mhm.
it. I get it. I get it. You're a pimp. Let's let's do this. But anyway, so we should watch the train arc together and
Yes, we
uh
will, because I know
really
that arc is gonna be
really
like
feel that out, see what's going on.
oh, it's gonna be so stressful. Like I stopped watching at the train arc because I needed to catch my breath after the whole first season. I'm like, okay,
Oh
we're gonna have an
no.
episode where
Yeah.
no one's gonna where no one's under threat of death, right? And like no one's gonna die. We're gonna have one of those episodes where it's just gonna be like, okay, and we did kind of get some of that with the training episodes, the training arc, which was also hilarious to me. Like when he was
Honestly,
training
that
at that place with those,
yes, with the 3
it was really
girls. I
cute.
love the 3
Mm-hmm.
girls. They're so adorable.
Mm-hmm. They were great. They were great. So like, and I was like, yeah. And then we went to the train, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck this right now. I can't take it. I haven't felt that strongly about like I need a break since like Shira, the reboot, and Glitter's mom. Like, spoiler
Well,
for Shira coming up in three, 2, 1. Glitter, Sparkle, Sparkle, Bang, Bang, Glimmer. That's her name. That's how I remember her name. Like, when her mom got like ended, like, or sucked into another dimension, I was like, you know what, Shira, fuck you, I'm done. And it took me like a year to come back to circle back to that.
Yeah.
Which I highly recommend. If no one's seen the reboot of Shira on Netflix,
I
like I
haven't finished it,
highly recommend it.
so
Oh,
I should
watch
finish
it.
that one
Watch
for
it.
sure.
Watch it just to get to the end. Just to get to the end, because I want to talk about the end, and I enjoyed all of the queerness through that show, and like, it wasn't like it wasn't a we're having in a queer character, and it's and look at this queer character. It was like everybody was queer. It felt like almost everybody was queer, and it wasn't a question. It wasn't like lauded. It wasn't like, look how brave are you? How
Yeah.
brave are
It was
you?
just like, guess what? People are gay. Deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, wish. I'm sorry. There was one thing specific I wanted to talk about in season two of
Okay.
Jodie, and season two of Jodie Whittaker's turn as a doctor.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was an episode with two gay men, and one of them didn't die. I thought he was gonna die. I thought this was gonna be the whole queer thing, like all often in the stories when we deal with
Mhm.
queers. There's one of them has to die, and he didn't die, and I was like, "Fuck, this is amazing." And then they showed in another episode a black man going to therapy with other men, and I'm like, "Yes, this is amazing." There's so much shit
Oh my
that's
god, that
amazing in that
episode with the
show.
therapy though is so funny. I love that one. That one's so good.
Hmm.
Made my heart glow.
The
Yeah.
the fingers in
Yes.
the ears.
Yeah, that part wasn't great, but the rest of the episode was very good. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
So Demon Slayer, you're watching Demon Slayer. What else are you?
That's basically there was one more thing I wanted to talk about with Demon Slayer actually.
Did it have to do with your opinions?
Friend, I have so many opinions. I'm just I'm just like made out of opinion. I'm like an opinions in a paper sack as a person. That's just who I am. You squeeze it, an opinion will come out. I promise. Um, no, there was one more thing I wanted to say about Demon Slayer, but oh, I missed. I missed it.
You'll
My
pick
brain
it
said
up.
no. I'll figure it
It'll
out.
come back.
If it comes out when we're talking about other stuff, then so be it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm so far a fan of the show. I like the design work. I will probably be reading the manga because I have a feeling at some point I'm going to become emotionally invested in the characters. Currently, I am not. I have
Mm.
not. I've not been hooked. I don't think it's going to make me cry yet.
Mm.
I have a feeling down the line that might happen, but thus far it has not made me cry or given me a panic attack, even during like the really uh, dark episodes. Unlike Jujutsu Kaisen, which made me cry within like 6 episodes, I was like, "You son of a bitch." I mean, I love you. Which you definitely have to watch that before we have season 2. Though you will probably need a break before we actually start season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen just because it's
So I should
some
like watch it now, right?
yeah. What put it up on your list. Like let's go ahead and tackle Demon Slayer for now. But if you need a break between the train arc and the entertainment district arc, we can do that, and I'll watch Samurai Champloo, and you can watch JJK, and we can
Yes,
talk
watch
about it.
that one. Oh my god.
We can talk about each other's faves. Which is fun. I like that. I like that we can do that for each other.
Yeah. I'm
Oh, the
adding Jujutsu Kaisen.
so
Wow.
I was doing a fan art of Inosuke because he's my favorite. And I ended up inadvertently, well, not inadvertently, but like I was sharing the pictures with a bunch of people, and Zach was asking me about art stuff because he's been trying to get into art, and
Mm.
I've been like teaching him how to do art, and I've
Nice.
decided to take my own advice while teaching, and one of them is, and like this is something that I'll just tell the audience, a lot of times you'll be like chastised and stuff for like looking at reference of other art and trying to do that art yourself, but it's a really great way to actually train your eye to see composition. It's a really great way to train your hands to do line work, and it's good exercise because just like creative mediums are not you don't just like wake up as a genius, roll out of bed, and like make brilliant paintings. That's not really how it works. You do actually have to do a lot of art to be able to make art. And
Mhm.
getting training from other people is helpful, but the 3 main things you have to do are actually copy a bunch so that you get used to the actual action of making art, learn anatomy so that you can create figures on your own, and learn shapes and lighting so that you
Mhm.
can create scenes on your own. After that, you have to learn perspective and some other more difficult things in on the way to like finding your own style. But like those first 3 are really important, and I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, don't copy," especially not if it's something like anime or, stuff like that because it's hashtag not real art. I wanna punch so many people in the face about that.
They deserve
But
to be punched in the face hard.
it's still a way to hone your craft, and
Yeah.
the act of practicing is very important. And so, like, the fact that so I did art for 4 days in a row, um, last week, and then this week I also did art for 4 days minimum, and I'm trying to get to the point where I'm doing just at least a half hour a day of doing
Mhm.
art, just to keep in practice and get up to the point where I also realized that I had trapped myself into I have to have finished pieces. I have to be very careful with my composition, and I would get stuck worrying about what the end product would be, and
Mhm.
I stopped enjoying the actual action of getting to that end product.
Ooh.
So I'm hoping by doing this daily practice, I can get back into actually enjoying what I'm doing. And I found
Mhm.
myself today thinking about the color composition and how I was going to handle the rest of this piece. And I think that's great because that
Yeah.
tells me that my brain is getting back into art mode after being out of it for so long because like life got in the way. I have a full-time job and I've been stressed out and not doing stuff. So this is going to be a good way for me to get back in it. And Ron also recommended 2 podcasts for me that don't suck. So
Nice.
so I'll be able to listen to stuff other than us and make art while I'm doing that. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, so you mentioned you were gonna possibly do some fan fiction to
Yes, to help get me back into writing because you really inspired me with that. And because I found that even though I'm writing this book, like I have become so obsessed with the product of it
Mhm.
that I have lost my joy for it in a few ways. And having other people's eyes on it, and they say, "Oh, you write for yourself." But it's like I'm not just writing for myself. I'm writing
Yeah.
for an audience. I'm writing to people. I'm writing with a purpose. And as soon as people turn around and look at me, I'm so fucking weird. I do things that people would do to get attention, and then as soon as someone looks at me, I'm like, "Don't look at me." Like it's weird. Like I dance burlesque on stage, like going on stage in glittery things and being naked, and as soon as I'm done performing, I run away like Cinderella from the fucking ball. Except I don't leave a shoe behind, like, cause bitches can't find me anywhere. So, like, I'm like, I am writing and become so like locked in that this has to say something, this has to mean something, that my writing has kind of lost its,
It's
I've
gotten
kind of
stiff?
lost my voice.
Oh, okay, that makes
I
sense.
kind of lost my voice. So, fan fiction, I found, has given me like lines.
Mhm.
Like, I know this character is going to behave in this way. I know they're going to do this in this situation. Like, instead of having to rely on an original character, I can go with already pre established rules, drop them into the world that's already made, and then create new scenarios for those characters. I'm already doing it with Avatar: The Last Airbender. Um,
Do you should send me your links to these so that I can read them
I
because I'm
will. I
interested.
will. I have to put one of them up. I have one that's like 100 pages printed. Um, it takes place after like everybody's grown here. I finally got my Zutara, which is what I wanted. Like I killed off my
Oh,
May.
no,
I
you
killed her off.
fridged my
I did. I did. I did. I did. And Aang just ran off the table like Aang, but at least Aang could talk. Anyway, it's on archive of my own under the name Rawia. I will send you the links,
Thank you.
so you can see what I have up there. But it was good for me to write that fan fiction because I felt relaxed because it was already all these established
Mhm.
places and I felt like I had a kite string and then I could just fly. And with my own writing, I feel like so unmoored that it is, and I've been changing so much from who I was when I started writing this. Like it started off as a fucking memoir and then changed into this whole thing about, mammification and all this other stuff that I wasn't expecting it to become. It became, but it's always occurring underneath it. So it's just wild. It's just wild. And I need something fun to do. So I can remember that writing was fun.
Mhm.
Cause on my pages, I do a lot of writing for my workshops, my business. I do a lot of writing about like magical and mystical things. I do a lot of writing about political things, but I'm not really doing any writing that's just like, hey, let's just
Have
writing
some
has been
fun.
very cathartic for me and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but I need to find my joy again with it.
I think that's great.
So,
I also think that, and we've talked about this before, and one of the reasons why you said you haven't really shared this is that a lot of the stuff that you do um, for like your promotions and stuff like that, it's almost a persona that you've created to protect yourself because, like you
mhm.
said, you're shy. You're worried about people seeing the real you come out, and in this show together, it's just us.
It's
We're
us,
like, "Hey."
and it's easy. It's us, and it's
Yeah.
easy, and just like completely effortless. And but also with this book, especially with I have to face it with this book.
Mhm.
So, like, I have to face it. I'm gonna face it with this too, and be like, "Oh, who the fuck cares?" Like, it's the thing of both. Like, I for the longest time I've been thinking, how can people take me, like, if I show the silly, unhinged, fun parts of myself, then are they gonna like see when I'm saying, "Oh, this shit's serious." Like when
Yeah.
I talk about politics, when I talk about how this country is being harmful to queer and trans folk, to black and brown and indigenous folk, like, will they like hear me? Or like, are they just going to be like, I don't know what I'm talking about? Um, like, how are they going to handle these silly sides of me? So I've been experimenting a little
Mhm.
bit with showing like these different aspects of myself, which I thought for the longest time that I was being vulnerable, but I was being vulnerable in my pain and not vulnerable in my joy.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's, like, a really good point because, like, I've been, like, following you and watching your content a lot, and because I know you as a whole person, it's different for me because, like, what you're talking about where, like, if I show myself being silly, will they understand when I'm being serious? But that's about people being able to see you as a whole and complete person
Mhm.
and not only seeing you as this persona of, I'm only here to do one type of thing. You can do everything, and people can take you for who you are and love you for who you are
Mhm.
by allowing them to see every aspect of you. But I get that that's like super scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
So,
but this book is coming out, and this and I'm shifting as a human being and what I need out of my life and what I
mhm.
demand and desire. And I'm shifting into joy. Uh, and so this is part of that joy. Like doing this
Yeah.
podcast with you has brought me so much like joy as a whole person. And like you were saying earlier, it gives me something to look forward to. There are weeks that are so difficult, and it's like, oh, but Carta and I are going to be doing this shit on Saturday, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be amazing, and we're going to talk, and we're going to share our opinions, and we're going to be there for each other. Um, and so it's been an amazing part of my life doing this podcast with you. Like, it's been so much fun.
Same. Love it.
And yeah, and I get to share that too. So I've decided that I'm going to take audio clips.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to take audio clips from the show with our logo and stuff like that on it. Um and share the audio clips, create audio clips for us to share,
Ooh,
like little
that's a good idea.
snippets. Mhm.
Like previews.
Mhm.
Oh, we're gonna have previews.
Yeah, we're going to have previews now.
Um, I actually think this is a good segue into the first thing that I wanted to talk about because you were talking about your book and the mammification. Um,
Mhm.
and the first topic that I wanted to talk about today was how you find spirits and deities that you choose to work with and why.
Yeah.
And for newbies or baby witches, like who are like, "Hey, I wanna get into this, but I don't know who I'm drawn to or who would be willing to work with me." how would I start that? How would I put my foot out to see what's going on? And also thinking for myself how my relationship with different entities has evolved over the years and
Mhm.
grown with me, or been kind of put to the side because I didn't need it anymore, or I ran away from them because I was scared. But how about you?
um so I only way I know to talk about this is by talking about it. So I know some people are like, I keep the deities that I work with like secret and all this other stuff. I'm not that bitch. I'm not that
Mm-mm.
witch. Unless they have asked me to, and no one has asked me to. They're like, be our hype man, actually.
Right?
So so okay. So the first, I never felt called to work with any particular deity. I used to work with the deities seasonally. And then I had an experience where I was asked to create a piece for queers of the gods.
Oh
And
yeah. I remember
yeah,
that.
yeah, and I was concentrating on who to work on. Of course, at that point I was working with Oya. And I started working with Oya because I had gone to a babalao and they had read the shells for me, and that's within the Ifa tradition, you guys, which is a ATR, African traditional religion. And they were like, "Oh, Oya's on your head," and I looked up Oya and I'm like, "Oh, that shit makes sense." That's why shit is never stable. Change is always constant. I'm totally into the colors, like this deep red and deep purple. Like my whole room is an altar to Oya. I've been worshiping Oya. Like
Yeah, that
Oya's
makes sense.
bearded. Like would get a beard and grow up, like go run to war. I naturally grow a beard because of the extra testosterone in my system. So like I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Da, 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 da. So I was working with Oya from that reading and then feeling an alignment with Oya. So that was the one way that I got connected to Oya, was through a reading that I had with a Babalao who was like, "This is on your head." The person who's on my feet, I'm running from. Running from so hard I don't even know their name anymore. But they brought Ifa into the world. They brought wisdom into the world, and it's a teacher's path. So my feet are walking the path of the teacher, but I keep blocking it out so hard that I'm like, is it Olokun? Is it Elegua? It's one of them. I just, or is it Igun? Igun? No, it's not the Igungun who are like our ancestors and spirits, but I gotta find out. Like I'm walking the path of the teacher, and on my head through the I'm walking the path of the teacher, but I'm doing it through change. So because of meeting with the Babalao and someone's godmother through Ifa, that's how I got connected to those spirits and the one that I'm running from. And then I wanted to do this for Queers of the Gods. I wanted to present Oya, and Oya, I was doing a meditation on. I'm like, let me like give Oya some wine. Let me do this. Let me do that. I'm gonna do this for Oya, and then I'm gonna ask Oya, like, do you want me to write this story for you? And I did all this shit. And then Oya turned around and was like, nah, bitch, we good. And I'm like, what do you mean we good? She's like, nah, bitch, we good. And I'm like, who the fuck am I supposed to work with? And a voice came in my head and said, me, bitch, Medusa. And I'm like, no disrespect intended, Medusa, but why am I going to be writing about some Greek shit? I want to write about some black shit. I don't want to write about some Greek shit. And then Medusa was like, bitch, I'm black. And I'm like, what? What do you mean you're black? She's like, hair snake like coils? That's dreads, boo boo. Like, baby, I'm black. Like, I am blackety black, black, black. And I was like, what? So then I started doing all this research into Medusa, and I found out about this whole like triune triple goddess that was in Africa. And I found out like how the Greeks invaded. Was it the Greeks or the Romans that invaded? No, it was the Greeks. The Greeks invaded, tried to take and it was a whole group of warrior women who fought against them and pushed them out for years, and then eventually got taken over. And like, that whole thing happens with tribute. So they drugged the warrior queen across the ocean, and all this other shit happened. Like, I found out about, like, who was it? Was it Aphrodite? Was it Aphrodite? Athena.
It was
Athena?
Athena, yeah.
Athena? Like, and in the Greek thing, Athena's like, you were sexually assaulted, it's your fault. But through this reframe of Athena, it was like, why would Athena ever fucking do that?
No.
Poseidon fucked up. Poseidon, like, fucked this bitch over. Like, why would Athena turn her back? And then I found out, like, Athena was actually Medusa's sister. Medusa is not a Gorgon. Medusa is a goddess. Like, all this other shit. And if you want to hear it, it's on my website at mammyisdead.com. Like, I did a whole ritual for it with music in the background, everything, like telling Medusa's story as Medusa told it to me. So then I was walking with Medusa energy for like 2 years. 2 years
Yeah,
I was walking with Medusa energy. And do you remember that presentation? You were there
I
for that, weren't you?
do. Yeah, of course I was, yes. Of course I was. Remember that
Yeah.
I did a drawing for you?
Oh, you did. You
Yeah, with
did
that
do a drawing
snake
for me.
energy,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's on my altar.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's on my altar. So yeah, so I was working Medusa for 2 years, and then I was studying old Anderson Fairy. So that was came into my head to work with while I was trying to work with another goddess. That goddess was like, no, you need to work with me. So that came into my head. So the first one was because I worked with a diviner. The second one was because it came into my head. The third one was because of my teacher. My teacher was like, hey, like, you have we are doing this ritual for Samhain. Um and we need to hold space for the death god. And the guy who normally holds space for the death god and channels the death god, or does it's not a channeling, it's a possession.
Mhm.
We did possessory work in old Anderson Ferry. And it's like, so the guy who normally does the possession work, like, considers himself to be a radio tuning in. And I don't want that this year. I want someone who is going to get fucking possessed. And I was like, are you asking me to do it? And she's like, well, I'm not asking you to do it. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll fucking do it. I'll do it. And then that death god rolled with me for 3 months. As soon as I said I do it, I felt Arthi, like, descend into my body. And even then, Arthi was like, I want certain things from you. And I was like, great, I'll give them to you. And one of them was that Arthi wanted to experience sex between my partner and I. Arthi wanted to be in the bedroom.
Okay, so that was the death
And
god situation.
that was a
The
death god situation.
Okay, okay.
That was a death god situation.
Interesting.
Yes. And then my partner was like, what are you gonna give me? What is Arthi gonna give us? And I'm like, the his presence. And my partner was like, that is not good enough.
Yeah.
Like, we need more. And so we each made a pact or a promise that we will let you into the bedroom if you grant this for us. And my ask was that I would be free from scarcity. And I thought I was being smart. I thought I was gonna get like a bunch of money. And Arthur was like, no, bitch, your scarcity is when it comes to love.
Yeah.
And
So
not only
you
I'm gonna
you
show
you get
you,
trauma.
you get trauma. You get trauma. You get trauma, boo boo. And that is exactly what happened. That it was so fucking ridiculous. And I think that was another 2 years. Like, some of this stuff was overlapping. And more recently, I took a journey. So that was through my teacher. And then more recently, I took a journey. I'm checking in. I'm like, are you sure I can tell people about you? She's like, yeah. So I took a journey that was supposed to be a past life journey, but it didn't become a past life journey. I ended up in the fairy realm on this mental journey. And I ended up going into this tower, and there was this beautiful nebulous, like, woman there. and she has the energy of fucking Aphrodite from Hercules or Xena, the TV show. Like she's just like out there with her energy, and it's pretty great and brilliant. And she says, everybody talks about the fucking fates. Like, everybody talks about past, present, and future, the maiden, the mother, the crone, the threads of time. No one talks about fucking world building. No one talks about the storytelling. And we're in this like tower with these infinite like spirals up of books and books and books and books and books. And I go up to her and I say, "Oh, my name's Rawia." And she's like, "I know. I'm the Rawia. You get your name from me." And I was like, "Oh shit." And then I and then I was like, and then a part of me was like, "Oh my god, I feel so special." And she's like, "There are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of Rawiyas across the world, all doing my work." And so she's basically like, "Don't get a big head."
I mean, you're
She's like,
special, but you're not that special.
"Yeah, basically." And so I was like, okay, all right, okay, fine. And so I made a pact with her and I've never made a pact like this with any deity or spirit before, but I gave her my right hand
Hmm.
and she tied a string to it, a black and red string to it. And she said, as long as you write, you will never hunger and you will never thirst. And I found myself in periods where I'm like, how am I going to make the money I need to make to survive this month? And anytime I think that I'm going to be in trouble, some shit comes through. As long as I'm writing, something always comes through. So, in that way, I found that deity through like taking a spiritual journey and taking a trip. And I found that I found help through using also psychedelics like mushrooms, shrooms, shrooms, my friend has has greatly helped me. That psilocybin don't be fucking around. Like it will reveal its secrets to you. So journeying, working with other spiritualists, doing my research about different deities and seeing what feels right, looking within my own cultural lineage, and then yeah, drugs.
Drugs. Definitely do this at home, kids. Drugs.
Drugs.
That's the answer to the cosmos.
Psilocybin man and mushrooms. I stand. I stand. I stand. So yeah, that's been the things that have connected me to spirit, and I think that journey that I took connected me to a spirit I didn't even know existed, and now I'm working with another deity,
Yeah.
and that deity is Mammy.
Okay. Tell me
I'm
more.
I'm still figuring the shit out, so this may not come out coherently. But like Mammy is not just a wasn't just a person. Mammy is a whole entire concept and belief. Like Mammy is this and y'all, if you don't know who Mammy is, I'm not gonna okay, maybe I will explain it a little.
I
But
was like, yes, please do. But this is
so
more of a thought
Mammy,
form than an actual deity, right? This is more in the
yeah, this
thought
is more of a
form.
it's so wild, but thought forms thought we know how like thought forms can become their
Yeah.
own deity, their own energy. So Mammy is the fat black enslaved woman who took care of um the children of the slave owner. Ugh, the household, the kitchen, basically ran the house. And by extension, Mammy could have also been, because they were in the house, subject to a lot of abuse or sexual abuse, physical abuse. Um, like and became this figure. Like you see Aunt Jemima on a syrup container, you see a fat black woman, and people feel safe around her because of the personification of Mammy. Um, and Mammy's a caretaker, a giver, someone who takes care of others before they take care of herself. Like, doesn't take care of her own children for taking care of other people's children. Supposedly seems like asexual in a kind of way. Um, and just all of these like negative things. And at the same time, like, if it wasn't for Mammy being a fucking G and surviving, I wouldn't be here today. Like, there's so many things about Mammy that have allowed me to be here. And also there's these demon sides of Mammy that I'm fighting within myself. So in writing this book, Mammy is Dead, I'm like looking, my editor actually, Tamala Gordon, is my editor on this book, Mammy is Dead, and she's writing a book herself called Hood Wellness. She is fucking brilliant, brilliant. But my editor is like, what if Mammy was a fucking deity? A spirit that you can work with, a spirit that you can conjure, something that's inside of you that you can pull out. And I'm like, what if that bitch was? And so now I'm working with Mammy the way I would work with a deity. I'm like, what do you need? How do I feed you? Talk to me. Tell me your story so that I can tell it to the world. Tell me your story and how it lives in me so I can separate my story from your story and continue to thrive. Like, how do I honor you when also there's parts of me that hate that you exist? And I'm hating that you exist is unfair to you because you have been hated. Like, you exist for a reason, and that reason wasn't you. It wasn't a choice. It was forced. So so I'm working with Mammy, exalting Mammy in a way, to get her to open up and talk to me.
Mhm.
Cause there's so much complexity there. It's complex. And I have a complex relationship with Mammy too. Because people have mammified me. Like, seeing me as safe because of my fatness. Seeing me as a caretaker, expecting me to take care of them before I take care of myself.
Really?
See me as less sexual. Yeah, it hits different for you because you see me as a whole ass human being.
Oh, I was like, "Who does that to you?"
Yeah, you see me as a whole ass human being,
Yeah,
but not everyone who looks at me sees me as a human being. Yeah,
that's a lot.
that's the racism. That's the racism, that's sexism, that's fat phobia. All those things align into one body. A fat, black, assumed female body for me equals mammification, equals servant, equals less than. Like fucking David. Like, I was with David for like how long? 10 years? He
Jesus,
saw me as subhuman. He admitted this on paper.
Jesus.
When I broke up with him, he was like trying to get back with me.
Yeah,
And I'm so used to be treated and seen as subhuman by the world around me that often when I walk into a place I'm trying to prove my humanity. And even when I was doing burlesque, the first thing I do when I walk into a room and get on stage is I'm trying constantly to prove my humanity and why you should see me as human. And the mammy stereotype or the mammy personification is part of what I was trying to get away from too. But like, mammy needs a hug.
yeah. Wow, that's some deep shit.
Yeah,
Like, that's wow.
yeah. So I'm trying to congress with the parts of me that are seen as not human and find that humanity within mammy and within myself. Because like, sometimes Mammy was doing what she had to do to survive. Sometimes Mammy was like, this is how it is, and this is just how it is, and you got to stay in line. And sometimes Mammy was like, I absolutely hate this, and I don't want this. I don't want this for me, and I don't want this for my descendants to come. And so that's what I'm working with. That's why I'm going to work with Mammy. I'm working with Mammy as a thought form, like you said, as its own deity energy, and to see in which ways it's been exalted, demonized, used, and be like, what do you actually need to rest? Like this whole thing is like killing
Yeah.
Mammy. It's like, no, what do I do to lay Mammy to rest so that she can rest? Because her spirit and soul is restless.
And to be able to bury her in your heart, you have to accept her. And I
Yes.
imagine that is very difficult.
Yes, that's what I'm dealing with.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm dealing with, and that's the spirit that I'm being called to work with now. I tried working with, I'm like, oh yeah, you want to work with me on this? Oya's like, no. Ancestors, do you want to work with me on this? Ancestors are like, you got this. We good. We'll come in when we need it, but I was like, the Rawiya, are you? The Rawiya is like, you got the skills. You don't need no other shit else from me for this. You doing the work. Trust in the work. You don't need shit else from me. Trust in the fucking work, bitch. And I'm like, okay, all right. It's nice to know you believe in me. Um,
But at the same time, you're
and
like, but what story do I want to tell?
mhm,
And digging within yourself is the only way to find that.
yeah. And Mammy's there. Mammy is there in my own spirit, sitting at the table with me. And I'm just like, let's talk. And we're at the point where she's just looking at me like, I trust you with my story and I don't even know where to begin.
I'm getting goosebumps. That's wow.
Yeah.
That's super
So that's what's
intense.
happening over here. And so I think in the end, the spirits that have chosen to work with me, that I have chosen to work with, have just come into my life.
Mhm.
And it's always unexpected. I've tried to work with other deities, like when I tried to work with the Morgaine. You remember what happened when I tried to work with
Yeah,
the
I remember
Morgaine.
that. You got slapped pretty hard for that one. Your ancestors are like, "What were you doing? Stop it."
Yeah, so like people I haven't had my ancestors or spirits say like, yeah, that's a good idea, but I've heard them definitely say no.
Yeah.
Um,
They will make
and
their
there's one
displeasure
other.
known apparently.
Yeah, they do violently make their pledge, like, cause they're like, cause you hard headed, you don't listen. And there's one,
I mean, they're not
there's
wrong.
one deity. They're not wrong. I also work with Papa Legba, and my mom Brigitte, which is also another incarnation for some of Oya. Um, So yeah, so I work with them and they've been showing up in my life ever since I was a child. I just needed to find their names. So sometimes you'll have spirits you work with and you won't know that they're a deity or a spirit, like per se, until you read about them one day.
What's
So
interesting
it's
is
trust.
specifically with Papa Legba, I knew you were going to work with him.
Mm.
Because when I was doing research into stuff, I was like, "This one's really interesting, but it's not for me. Who's it for?" And it was for you. And now I know. Now I know. He was like, no, that one over there."
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we
Okay.
work together. So what about you? Like, how have you found deities to work with, or like, how do you know what's the right fit, or where did they come from for you?
So for me, 90% of the ones I work with just showed up when I called to have people show
Mhm.
up. The other half I get crushes on and decide that I'm gonna reach out and touch somebody. So that's how my first one started. Like when I was a baby infant witch, I was obsessed with Greek stuff as a child. And then as a teenager, the first ones I wanted to reach out to were Artemis and Apollo because I was obsessed. And I realize now that I just had a teen crush on them both. And
They're
I
both
will
it's funny to me because they're both really queer.
I know, and, like, me as a teenager being like, "Oh, yeah, no, I'm totally straight." Yeah, no, I was not.
Yeah, you were not.
I had a major crush on both of them, the siblings. So I ended up working with them first, because of that crush. Just I won't say that I would never work with them now, because I still do, but it's very peripheral. It's like one of those where, like, you have a crush on a celebrity when you're a kid, and when you get older, you still love them, but, like, it's not at that same fervent level. That's kind of my relationship with them right now, where I'm like, "Oh, I still love you, but, like, we're not like that anymore."
Mhm. Like my
Uh,
relationship with Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
yeah, that is and for me, it was Devon Sawa. Um, if we're putting our whole ass out there for the tweenie bopper crushes. But yeah, so that's kind of how I am with them. I still will call on Artemis for protection,
Mhm.
stuff, because she's very good at that, and she is very protective of the people that she likes. So, basically, I call her in whenever I need protection for any reason. The other one that I use a lot for that is, Heimdall,
Mhm.
which you're thinking, "Oh, he's like a traveler, he does the Rainbow Bridge and does that," but he's actually really protective as well. So whenever I need, like, hardcore protection, those 2 are my go-to. Like I said, Hephaestus showed up once for an airplane because it was metal. He wants to do other stuff with me, and I'm like, "Bro, I'm allergic to metal. Calm down. It's fine." Like, I don't know if I'm on that right now, and he really
He's
wants to
also a
do stuff with
healer.
me. He is. So maybe I can. I'm sorry. I put you in a box. I didn't mean to. That was my bad. See, you learn something new every day. So I'm gonna work on that then. And then, like I said, Hermes shows up, like, all the time. Just
Mhm.
like he's constantly following me around with popcorn, just being like, "Hey, you want to do stuff? You want to do stuff? I think we should do stuff. We should totally do stuff now." And I'm like, "Oh my god, calm down." It's just because he likes my energy. I'm like crack cocaine. He's like, "Ching, ching, have some." Anyway,
Mhm.
um, I'm trying to think. When Lou showed up for you, I realized that he also wants to work with me. And I'm fine with that because I'm obsessed with ginger himbos. So, so I'm like, "Oh, okay, maybe a little bit." I have in the past worked with Odin and the Morrigan, but they are both way too intense for me. Like, they are both demanding, and they want very specific things that I'm like, I am not ready for that kind of a
They
commitment. I
come for your
can't.
soul.
They do. They both are like, "I am your boss now." And I'm like, "I didn't ask for a boss."
Mhm.
I didn't want you to come in here telling me what to do and shit. That's not how I am a free spirit. I am freelance. You,
Mhm.
you need to let me do what I want to do as a person. But at the same time, I have never made a contract. I have never actually committed to anyone. So that is on me because I realized that I'm very lazy. And while I am powerful, I do not have the attention span or the desire to actually get into a committed relationship with a
I'm
spirit of any
going
sort.
to contest your use of the word lazy because so many people who have ADHD, I find, think that they're lazy and they're not fucking lazy. Their brains are just moving so fast for their bodies to keep up with, and it gets overwhelming. And yeah, I also don't think it's bad that you haven't entered
Thank
into a
you.
committed relationship with a deity because maybe that's just not your fucking path, my friend. Like maybe you're supposed to be out here poly and panning with these deities and shit.
I think you're right. Because I was actually going to use the term spirit slut, because I will work with anyone who wants to work with me. Come on down. I actually did a call out for my car because when I got a new car, I was like, hey, I want to dedicate my car to someone. I want like some protection and some actual like involvement with my car. And surprisingly, Anubis showed up. And I was like, the
Huh.
fuck? How did this happen? So, yeah, my car is dedicated and named after a death god. So that's fun. And he's actually very chill to work with.
Mhm.
He's not as intense as other death gods that I've talked to in the past, but I've never actually worked with any other
He's
death
also
gods
judgment.
directly.
So,
He
good
is.
judgments.
Yes. And I feel like I drive better in the car than I did in my last car.
Judgment.
Judgment. Yes. I'm very decisive while driving, and that helps a lot. Um, but yeah, so I'll just do a call out because I don't want to. For me, I don't want to impose. So I'm not going to go approach a deity that would not want to work with me. I would
Mhm.
rather see if there's someone who would like to work with me, someone who likes my energy and who I could vibe with.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily like, I'm not prejudiced in terms of, like, I'm not only gonna work with one pantheon, I find that very restrictive. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm also not gonna go dip my toes in other pantheons that I don't belong to due
Mhm.
to bloodline or whatnot. Like, I'm not gonna go try to force an Orisha to work with me because 'cause they're probably not gonna want to, and that's okay. Like, that's perfectly fine, and I just so for me, my way of working a relationship with these spirits is just to invite. I'm very inviting in terms of who wants to come say hi, and it will change depending on who I'm doing a working for. Like, when I
Mhm.
did the spell for you, Medusa showed up. She has never shown up for any other spell of mine because why would she? She's not interested in me, she's interested in you. So, because I was doing a
Mhm.
spell for you, she was like, "I'll help out because it's for Rawiyah." I was like, "Okay, that's fine. Let's do this. As long as you're willing to accept my payment and you wanna help Rawiyah, let's get this done." And so that happened. But like I said, she's never shown up for anybody else, and she's never shown up for my general meditations either because, again, she would not be interested in me, and that's okay. Um,
Mhm.
like, I wanna emphasize that I think, I made it a little confusing before by saying, like, just because there are some paths that are not for me, I feel like some people really want to just go work with everybody, and
Yeah.
it's really important to accept that some paths just literally are not for you, and that is okay. That doesn't mean that that path is not as good. That doesn't mean that that path is, in any way detrimental. It simply means that it is not for you. You are not meant to walk down that path. And finding the path that you are meant to walk down is more important than trying to force a path just because you're curious or just because you're interested or because you think it's pretty or interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and like, I would never treat spirits as novelties or amusements.
Mhm.
And I feel like sometimes that does happen in the witch community where they're just like, oh, I'm going to dip my toe in here because I feel like it. And it's like, "No, please
Yep.
don't. Please do not do that.
Mhm.
It is not going to end well for any of us." Um, so for me, when I'm thinking of working with a new deity or something, or even if I have a deity approach me wanting to work with me, I'm going to do my research on them and figure out, where are you from? Who are you exactly? Who
Mhm.
who wants my energy and why? Because you know, I obviously have decent enough energy that I have deities wanting to work with me repeatedly, but at the same time, I feel like I don't necessarily know that I can't get into a worshipful relationship because that's not who I am as a person.
Mhm.
I'm not someone who's
Yeah.
going to devote myself. I'm not going to, if I ever create an altar again, it's going to be elemental because
Mhm.
that's what I'm most drawn to in terms of altars. Now, does that mean that I won't get effigies in the future if I feel like invokings? No, of course I will. Does that mean that I haven't had effigies in the past? Yeah, I have, but not in the same way. So, like,
Yeah.
as an example, I've had like a goddess doll, but I never used it for worship. And I had a Ganesh figure, but I never used it for worship because that's not a path that I'm not going to go into Hinduism or Shintoism or any of those because they are not for me. It's not, again, there's nothing inherently different about them. It's just they aren't for me. They are closed paths essentially outside of
Mhm.
where I can walk, which is fine. That's aces. I'm totally cool with it.
Mhm.
Um, so the majority of the deities I work with are European, and the only ones I have worked with outside of European pantheon are um, just Egyptian in terms of that, and only two of them ever. But again, it was because I did a call out and they said yes. I would never
Mhm.
force a deity to work with me if they don't want to. Um, I have tried to explore ancestor work as well, but uh, so my dad has been doing ancestry.com shit for fun,
Uh-huh.
and he has been telling me some of, oh my god, so,
Telling you some wild shit.
yes, and I'm like, "Dad, I kind of don't wanna know." He's like, "No, this is important. I know that it's bad, but it's important." I'm like, "Dad, what the fuck?" So, he's like, "Yeah, so one of your ancestors got hanged because he created a militia against the federal government in Arkansas during a
Wow.
specific time period." I'm like, "Fucking hell. What the what the shit?" So, like, stuff like that, and, like, people on my mom's side, were into plantations and stuff, and I'm like, "Great." And he's like, "Yeah, but we got people in the Revolutionary War." I'm like, that's I guess that's better. I don't." And he's like, "Yeah, but some of the people from England were in parliament and royalty and stuff." I'm like, "That's not better, dad." Like, we're all of my ancestors.
Imperialism is not for
Right,
the win.
right. It's like, that's not cool in my mind. And he's like, "Well, some of your Irish ancestors went against the British." And I'm like, "Oh, so they were the ones that showed up." Because, like, I had a feeling, and I think I've told you this before, I'm like, "I bet my Irish ancestors are gonna be cool." And yeah, they're my
Mhm.
ACAB ancestors, and so, they're
Mhm.
the only ones I can
Mhm.
work with apparently are the Irish because the rest of
Mhm.
them are just shitty, and I'm like, "Huh, I knew I had a bunch of work to do, but I didn't know it was this much homework."
There's things you can do though. There are elevated ancestors. There
Mhm.
are ancestors who have done their work after death. There's also ancestors you can be like, hey, these other ancestors were fucking up during life, and I don't know if they've changed during death. Can you like hook them up or help your own people out? So I know in my lineage, there's ancestors who are bigots.
Mm.
There's like ancestors who believed in washing the line, and for those who don't know, washing the line is when you keep having kids with white people specifically to breed out black traits. So, like, there's people who have washed the lines, there's people who have been like abusive and awful. But I definitely believe in ancestor work, because ancestors are a powerful tool. So it's like, yes, some of your ancestors, but not all of your ancestors. So like,
Right. I guess I think I need to do, and that's what I mean, though. I think I actually need to do work
Mhm.
I need to make a concerted effort to do ancestor work to help not necessarily clean up their mess, but to help mitigate damage, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I know for me, I have done as much work as possible to educate myself to make myself better so that I am not damaging to others.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that I'm, I guess, I don't know, absolved of things that my ancestors
Mhm.
did. I gotta dig into it more, I feel like. I
Yeah.
feel like I need to
It's
dig into it
complicated.
more and figure out things I can do to help, because I know that the Irish ancestors I have will not approach the British ancestors to do anything because they're gonna be like, "Fuck them."
Like, fuck you.
Yeah, and I can't really blame them for that, so I have to, like, dig around to figure out a British ancestor that isn't trash and see if they'll work with all of the other ancestors
Mhm.
to,
Mhm.
like, you know, figure it out. Um, but yeah, like, I can actually do that work, and I feel actually so my dad is really proud of having done all the work that he's done on it, and, like, I don't front on him for that. Like he actually has done a lot of the work and he finds it interesting. And he finds it important enough that he's not going to shy away from the bad things to only look at the good things.
Yeah.
And so, like, I do appreciate that he's actually done that work. So I have the information to actually be able to look into this more thoroughly and
Mhm.
possibly do that healing work in the background of the line
Mhm.
and like figure out ways to heal the harm or at least help with that from that perspective, if that makes sense.
Mhm. That makes sense.
Um, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me though. Though I
Well,
do like
since
I think I do have a desire to actually have more of a relationship with certain deities. I just have to figure out who I'd want to
uh
cultivate that with.
I think you
So,
have such a breadth of knowledge with deities. It's just something that I don't have. Like you can I feel like I could be like blah 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 and this person da 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 and you'll be like, "Okay, I know who that is." Um
it's
so
like with any show or book that you tell me about, you're like, "And
yeah.
this character does this and this." I'm like, "Oh, okay, it's that show. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, got it, got it."
Some people are seekers and you're a finder. So I think that that's part of your relationship with deity is having that finder energy and
Mm,
also all the research that you've done in the past like that you can remember helps you identify who you're working with now. And also being a finder, like a deity can show up and I'm guessing that you cannot know who they are, but like they'll reveal themselves to you through you're observant enough to look at those
mhm.
clues and be like put them all together and figure out who a spirit deity or thought form
Yeah,
is.
I do get really distinct vibes when I work with them. Like, I can
Mhm.
tell who they are 100%. Like, it's interesting, like, Hermes has many different forms,
Uh-huh.
but the one who follows me around is definitely the messenger.
Mhm.
He's FedExing all of my magic for me. Like express mail. It's
Mhm.
definitely that energy, the speedster, the messenger, the creative one.
Mhm.
Not the doctor, though I have a feeling he would be interested in my healing work as well because I do healing energy. And one of my friends was like, "Hey, so I know that you're sick a lot. Have you ever done spells for yourself to help heal?" And I'm like, "No." And then I was like, "Wait, why?" What Why wouldn't I do that for myself? That doesn't make any sense. That is not logical. Thank you, friend, for telling me I should do things for myself,
Mm-hmm.
which I had not previously considered. Huh, interesting.
Mm.
But I feel like I interrupted you. Please go ahead.
No, 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 no. I'm thinking. I was part of my brain was like, God, can I put together a healing sachet for you? Because I have a whole apocryphy. Like, I have over 100 different types of herbs. For magical working. So I'm like, maybe I should put together a gree bag for you for health.
So I'm actually
Which,
excited about this because next week, when Eric is going to be on, I wanted to talk about charms because I've made some charms for her. And I think that
mm,
physical magic is very interesting, and you're good at the herbal kind. I tend to work with stones more, but like it's real. Like I think charms is going to be a good topic, and we'll have fun with that as well.
oh yay. I think what I was gonna say earlier was since we talked a little bit about ancestor like work, I just wanted to give people a few whoever's listening who may be like interested
Mhm.
in ancestor veneration, but not know how to start or how to approach. Like as simple as a glass of water on a white cloth
Hmm.
and can be like an offering to your ancestors. And also knowing that like sometimes our ancestors are speaking to us and it's like, I want to hear the voice of my ancestor. I want to hear the voice. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. But is it that you're not hearing them, or is it that they've been speaking to you all your life and you just kind of learn to like
Tune them out.
either tune them out or think there's something else other than your ancestors?
Oh, like a
Yeah.
subconscious type of thing.
Yeah. Like you
Interesting.
no longer hear it as your ancestors,
Yeah, yeah,
but it's
yeah.
your ancestors. For me, I did a journey and worked with an ancestral line healer for a while. And with the work that I was doing with her, I was able to see like my father's lineage and why he ain't shit. Um, So in a way, it helped me let go of some shit with him. Also to honor the fact that my father's lineage was all trickster energy, Anansi energy. Um, and the trickster, the charmer, which is where I get that energy from myself, for
Mhm.
myself. But also I found out that my ancestors like four roses. So I got them four roses to drink and I pour it out onto in a special glass on the altar. I make sure I give them water. I found certain things that are like older things that I feel like they would like that I come across in vintage stores and stuff like that. And you can have an ancestor veneration practice without knowing the name of your ancestors because people are like, I don't know the names. I am descended from enslaved peoples. My lineage has been lost to time. Like my name, which I just changed my name, but my slave name uh was I couldn't help myself.
Fuck.
McAlpin actually comes from the plantation that my people, my family was forced to be on and labor on. And I was like, why do we keep these names? It's like, oh, so they could find each other. So
Hmm.
they could find each other because families were torn apart.
Right.
So keeping that last name was a way of like find like where this is the plantation we're from. Who do you know from that plantation? Like maybe you're my cousin, maybe you're my brother, maybe you're my uncle, maybe you're my sister, maybe you're my fucking mother. Cause like they were separated from each other. So I don't have the names of all my ancestors past my great great grandmother, I think. I think that's it. I think it's past my great great grandmother, whose name was Virginia Lee, and she was a bootlegger who disappeared five husbands.
Nice.
Right? I'm like, oh shit. Like, yes. That's where the fire comes from. So you can work with your ancestors without knowing their names. You can ask for their names. You can work with an ancestral line healer. You can start with water on a white cloth. You can start just talking aloud to your ancestors, and you may not hear something back in the beginning, but keep having that faith and keep believing, and eventually you will form a relationship as you learn to hear them, and you'll see how they've been showing up in your life too.
That is some excellent advice. Thank you. Oh, also, if you're pouring drinks for them and you're done with your session of talking to them, can you drink the drink or do you pour it out like a libations on the ground type of thing?
I don't. I keep the water there. I just keep the water on the altar the whole time, because spirit moves across the water. So I keep
So
I
you just
keep
permanently keep a glass of water on your altar.
and then I refresh it when I clean the altar, or whenever the bourbon runs out. So I have a drink that my ancestors like, which is the Four Roses. They showed me
Mhm.
Four Roses. I didn't even know Four Roses was an alcohol. But when they asked, what do you want for libation? They showed me a picture of Four Roses. And I'm like, Four Roses. Okay, I can get that Four Roses. And then my friend was like, Four Roses is an alcohol. And I'm like, oh shit. My ancestors like to get lit. So I got the Four Roses, and then there's another alcohol that I drink when I'm trying to connect with them or have them speak through me
Mhm.
directly, and that is the Uncle Nearest, which is the original Jack Daniels. Jack
Oh,
Daniels recipe comes from this. Jack Daniels recipe is actually taken from this guy who was enslaved and worked at their whiskey distillery, whatever place to make whiskey, and they took his formula and made um
made
Jack
Jack Daniels.
Daniels. Mhm.
Wow. And you're saying Uncle Nevin's is like the original?
Uncle Nearest is that
Nearest. Okay.
closer to the original recipe, and that Uncle Nearest made. He was either enslaved or just newly freed. I have such feelings about using that phrase, newly freed, because it's like they were fighting for freedom. Like it's ugh, anyway, terminology. Yeah. So I don't know if he was liberated at the time or if he was still enslaved at the time. But if you look up Uncle Nearest, and let me tell you, that is some good shit. That is some good ass shit. So when I need my ancestors to work with me directly or strongly,
Mhm.
I will drink a little bit of the Uncle Nearest.
That
And
is
then I'll give some to Bertha, my housemate, my family, Bertha.
mm.
I'll be like, look, I need to talk to my ancestors, and my ancestors talk to Bertha. Now, Bertha's
Oh.
lineage is like Polish, Polish Jew,
Mm.
um, and like so a whole different set like of deities and spirits and all this kind of stuff. But my ancestors will speak to Bertha because Bertha uses butter when she cooks. And also Bertha has literally saved my life like 3 times. So they trust Bertha and they speak through Bertha. So sometimes I'll be like, hey Bertha, want a little whiskey? I'll pour a little like I'll pour a little Uncle Nearest and then I'll wait to see what she says.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That was that was really good. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And the final thing that I wanted to talk about today was basically triggers in things that we read or watch, things that like you know that you can't handle, and things to watch out for in the hashtags. And this is mainly for the people who like ask for recommendations and then say, I have no triggers, because I feel like you're wrong. I feel like you
Mm-hmm.
definitely do have triggers. You just don't know what they are. So
It's like working with subs who's like, I have no boundaries. And they're like,
it's
bitch,
like,
you have
you
boundaries. There's
probably
shit you
do.
won't do.
Maybe we
Mm-hmm.
should talk about that. And it's like it's a different level of boundary because like it's you yourself going into media and how you feel about it. Like for
Mhm.
me, I know there are certain things that I don't want to see. Like I don't want to see it. It may not like cause panic attacks or anything like that, but it's still not something I want to expose myself to because I know that I
Mhm.
will become upset. And because I read and or watch a significant amount of stuff, there are certain tags that I am 1000% looking for. Cuz like one of the things I can't handle is any kind of assault between the main pairing because that's a hard no from me. I
Mhm.
like if I'm expected to read any kind of romance and there is assault between the two main characters who are expected to end up together, they should not be together. Like if there's side characters involved or something else like that, I can kind of overlook it sometimes, like it's not as
Mhm.
bad. But if there is
Yeah.
anything between the main pairing, that is a hard no for me because I can't then see them as a romantic pair if one of them was harmed, egregiously harmed by the other one. There's just no way that that's going to work out. Um, but I know that that's like a thing that doesn't bother other people. That's something
Yeah.
specifically for me that I'm looking out for. Um, I can't think of anything else that's like super obvious that I don't like. I do put things down if there's too many misunderstandings and they're not communicating though, but that's just a frustration level,
Oh,
that's not actually a trigger. That's just me being annoyed.
I hate that. That has stopped me from watching several Korean dramas
Oh my god,
where
they
I'm
never
like,
talk in those.
oh my God. The first one I watched where they really like talked about shit as it came up was uh King the Eternal Monarch.
Oh yeah, that one's good.
Oh, so good. So good. The Unbreakable Sword. I think it's Woo Han. Like that's the actor who
Yeah.
plays the Unbreakable Sword, or Wo Han, Wo something. Oh my God, he's
Let me
so
see.
hot. For me in media, I cannot absorb rape.
Mhm.
Like I just can't. Like I just can't do it. Like it definitely triggers me for the whole thing, which made watching Pinky violence movies hard, even though I love the genre.
Yeah, there's a lot of assault in those,
Yeah.
like, as a plot device. I don't like it when they
Yes.
use it as a plot device, like, why does she
Yeah.
have to
It's like,
overcome
oh, this
that?
is what makes.
Mm.
I hate it when it's like, oh, this is what makes women strong is being assaulted, and it's like, no. They even did that in fucking with Sansa in
And that is why I can't do Game of Thrones, there's way too much assault in that fucking
yeah.
show.
And
Way
all
too
that
much.
assault that's in the show didn't happen in the books. Like, not that some of it didn't happen in the books, but like some of
Like,
that
they
shit did
increased
not.
it.
Yeah, they increased it for the show.
Ugh, I hate that.
Um, which is why I haven't watched a lot of Game of Thrones either. So that is one thing that I'm definitely against. I have a huge problem with watching children go through like abuse.
Mhm.
As a child, as someone who survived a bunch of abuse myself, as a child, I have trouble watching it because it just makes me have flashbacks. Like it physically throws me back
Yeah.
into the states that I was in when I was a child.
And there are
Um,
so many animes like that. Like, there's a
there are.
ton of animes that, like, they're like, "Oh, this person was abused as a kid. Let's show their dad beating the shit out of them." And
Mhm.
you're sitting there going, "This is really intense." Because most of the time they do an excellent job storytelling-wise, but it's like, it's a little too intense. That's something that, is also a trigger for Kurt. So, like, I actually try to look into the anime that we're watching before watching it, just in case something like that's up, just so I can give him a heads up. Because it's not
Mhm.
that he's like, I absolutely can't watch it. It's just he has to be prepared because it's a trigger. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
if something's going to be a trigger, either in terms of like, because they depict bullying really well in a lot of shows as well. And,
Mhm.
if bullying is a
Oh my
trigger,
god.
then that's going to be,
I
you know what
tried
I'm
to
saying?
watch Lookism.
Oh, no, I like I couldn't even get past the first issue, like,
I
it's a web comic, right?
Yeah, I
The
started
first
reading the webcomic,
mm-mm,
and then I was like, maybe watching it is gonna be easier, and it was like, nope.
no. Yeah, one of my friends is like, you have to read this, you have to watch this, it's so good," and I'm like, "Yeah, I couldn't get past literally the first episode of the webtoon," and I am an
Mhm.
avid reader, like, I don't put things down like that, but I was just like, "Ugh, no, all of
Mhm.
this is bad, I don't think I can handle this,"
Yep.
and
Yep.
yeah,
Oh
that
my
one
god, but somehow we made it through Boys Over Flowers.
friend, that is a different beast, and I like, no, this is another thing, like, so for some reason, the older media doesn't bother me as much, and I don't know why. Because like, so
Because of how it's shot, it's so campy sometimes.
yeah, maybe that's why. Because, like, so for me, significant age gaps is another trigger. Like, if
Mhm.
someone knows someone as a kid and they are an adult and they end up being romantic later, I am not okay with this. To the point that
Mhm.
I will start looking shit up online. The instant I haven't even an inkling that something like that can happen, I am Googling the shit immediately. So, like, there was a show called, like, I Would Do Anything for my daughter, including defeating the Demon King. And it's an anime and it's super cute. It's like
I'm
this
sorry, the title.
I know these new titles, I swear to fuck. It's because it's a light novel. It's a fucking light novel when again. The light novel ones are always the ones that have like the like paragraph as a name that you have
Mhm.
to deal with. And they're all like, oh man. But so yeah, so that one I was like, okay, let's see. Like it's really cute, but like I'm getting a weird vibe here. So I looked up and they're like, oh yeah, 8 books in, they get married. And I'm like, for
Wait,
fuck's sake.
what?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it's this dude who finds this little girl who's a demon, and he, like, adopts her and brings her home with him, but, like, doesn't, like, officially adopt her, so she's not like, he's not actually her dad, but,
Mhm.
like, they live kind of as a family in this tavern with, uh, like, a man and a woman who are, like, also having a kid, so, like, they're all together. She's, like, I wanna say, like, 7 and he's, like, 18 when they first meet. It's so, like, it's, like a 10, 11 year age gap, which in general isn't so egregious, but the fact that she's fucking 7 when they meet makes it egregious. She is a
Mhm.
child. She is clearly a child. So when I started getting a weird vibe about it, I'm like, I'm gonna look this shit up. And they're like, yeah, like 8 books in, when she's like a full ass adult, they fall in love and she never saw him as her dad and all this. And I'm like, the title of the book is
Is.
I would do anything for my daughter. So even though you can claim that they never saw each other as a parent and child relationship, there is a significant age gap and I am not okay with it. So I immediately stopped watching the show, removed it from my Crunchyroll list. Do not watch that one if that is a bother for you. On the other hand, the fucking Junjo Romantica show, which is that
Mhm.
trash BL I was telling you about, has two relationships that have serious age gaps with like teenagers and grown ass men. And I'm somehow fine with it. And I think, like you were saying, it's like an early 2000s. And maybe it's because in my mind, I just associate early 2000s anime with just like the bullshittiest trash I could think because like Vampire Night, the dating my grandpa one is on that. I
Oh
told you
my
about that
god.
one, didn't I?
You did, and
Yeah.
I pushed it to the back of my mind, and now it's at the forefront again.
That one's an early 2000s one too. So I'm just like, I guess in my head, I'm like, I'm fine with it because they're not blood related. uh, so I have certain triggers, but there's a context for them. And one of
Mm-hmm.
them is if this is a fucking child and you are an adult when you meet, you can't bone later.
It's called grooming, guys.
Yeah. The way that you just said that. I mean, you're right, but it's just the way that you phrased it was very funny to me. I'm dying now. Thank you. Um, I'm trying to think. There was another one like that. It was a web comic actually called something about the Demon King's daughter comes back and she shared a soul with somebody who already existed.
Mm-hmm.
And her romantic interests were basically a 300-year-old dragon who had the body of a child when they first met, and then like went through dragon puberty or whatever and turned into an adult almost overnight. And shape-shifted down to be a teenager to match her energy when she turned into a teenager. And the other was a grown-ass man who knew her previous incarnation and was in love with the previous incarnation and put that on her. And this grown-ass man met her when she was like 3. And I'm like, no. So like
Uh,
at the end of the comic artist literally said, "Thank you to the author for allowing me to change the plot at the end here." And I'm like, so I put my spy glasses on and started down a Google rabbit hole. And keep in mind, so I had already stayed up till 2 in the morning finishing the comic and ended up going to bed at like 4 a.m. because of the rabbit hole I fell down looking up what the original story was. Because I found a thread on Reddit where everybody was like, I'm not fucking reading this. This is going to be like some pedophile bullshit. And somebody's like, no, no, no. The comic actually ends good. I promise. Because she ends up with the dragon in the comic, which is an arguably better pairing than the grown ass man meeting the 3-year-old. Um, because he was still in a child form when they met the first time because of
mm-hmm.
dragon anatomy. I don't fucking know. I can't explain that, but it's fine. But apparently in the original light novel, because again, like when manhwa happened, they often happen based off of novels, and then they adapt the novel into a manhwa, and that's what happened with this one. But in the original novel, she ended up with the grown ass man instead, and I was like, yes, thank you, author, for allowing them to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do that?
You know what? I will say that as a teenager, I wrote a few stories where a person, well, maybe it was like one or two. There was two. There was one where it was a space story and like this guy had been taking care of her since she was, well, it wasn't that bad. Like she was 12 and he was 17
Oh
and
yeah,
he'd been
that's not that
taking
bad.
care of her. And then like she hit like 17 or 18 and he like sent her away.
Hmm.
And then she was like, "Why did you send me away?" And there was a whole situation where she was like, "I love you." And he's like, "This is just wrong." And
And then cut to like 7 years later or something.
yeah, and then cut to 7 years later and they're married. Um, but so, and I'm like, oh, and then part of me was like, I never had a dad. Am I doing this because I never had a dad? And it's this
Oh
weird
my
thing.
god.
That's not, so then I started psychoanalyzing myself about like why did I do this? Why as a child? Because I was writing this as like a fucking 13-year-old.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was writing
And
this as a 13-year-old.
I think the other thing is that like we as kids can't necessarily process something as being wrong that we as
Mhm.
adults process as being wrong. And I use an
Yeah.
example, Fushigi Yugi, which is one of like my favorites when I was a teen, and I even have a tattoo of Toski's symbol, which I still love Toski. He is my favorite. He is the original ginger
Mhm.
himbo that I fell in love with. Um, but like literally in the show itself, the character Nakango, he basically gaslights two 15-year-old girls into thinking they've been raped and uses that information to control them.
Oh my
Neither of
god.
them have been raped, but he makes them think they were. And like basically uses that information to manipulate the one, and the other uses it to manipulate. So the concept is, for those who don't know, Fushigi Yugi is, it's like ancient Chinese mythology. Two of them go back to be priestesses or mikos of Suzaku and Seiyu, which are the phoenix and the blue dragon in the Chinese mythology. And the they can be granted a wish if they burn a scroll while being a virgin. So convincing them that they have been raped makes them think they are not virgins to be able to do this sacred
Um.
ceremony, while he knows full well they can. He's supposed to be a soldier of Seiyu, the blue dragon, but you find out later that he actually serves a different god, like an evil god or whatever, and that's why he's been
Mhm.
trying to fuck them all up. Um, and Yui and Miyaka used to be best friends, but because
Mhm.
Yui thought that Miyaka abandoned her to be raped, she hates her now. And
Oh
they're both in
shit.
love with the same guy. Like, this is drama. And that's why, like, I can't in good conscience recommend the show to other people because it is traumatic.
Mhm.
And I'm watching it going, oh my God, get this child an adult who actually cares about her.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, like, um, it was one of my favorites as a 15-year-old. So like I'm rewatching it in chunks because I can't handle it all at once because it's traumatic. And
Mhm.
I can't I'm not always into that. But like they they eventually figure it out. So everything works out at the end. But like if you're into something that is going to be wildly inappropriate sometimes and just silly and funny at other times, definitely check out Fushigi Yuki. But at the same time, like watching that, I'm like, could this normalization of Nakango's behavior
Mhm.
have affected me or influenced me as a tween when I watched this?
Yo, look, there had to be a reason why I was like certain things were okay as I was a child. And it was a normalization of age differences, a normalization of boys will be boys,
Mhm.
like all that kind of stuff came in through media for me. And this is a whole nother podcast.
It kind of is, like, we're getting in the weeds here. And
Mhm.
that's good though, because like, I think this is definitely something that we can explore, over multiple regions, but I think it's important to think about, and again, like, I keep harping on this every time that we have the show, is that knowing the media you're consuming, understanding who it was made for, and understanding the actual messages it's saying
Mhm.
are
And who it was
really
made
important.
by.
Yeah, yeah, who it was made by and who it was made for, and why they made it in the way that they made it.
Mhm.
Because you can watch the trashiest, shittiest stuff that you want and have fun with it, but it's more fun when you understand what it actually is, because you
Mhm.
can separate yourself from it in a way that it's not going to affect you in the same way that it would have when you were younger, because you have
Yeah.
the critical thinking and the
Filters.
understanding of the media itself to be
Mhm.
able to digest it in a different way. So the
Yeah.
way that I'm looking at Fushigi now is way different than I was as a kid. As a kid, I just thought Miyako was annoying, and I didn't like her love interest at the time.
Mhm.
Tamahome is an idiot. But at the same time, I'm looking back, I'm like, he was 17. Of course he was an idiot. That's fine. Um but they've got like 18, and like I swear to God, Hotohori is 18, and Toski was 17 as well. Chichiri, I think Chichiri was closer to 19. Chichiri was the only one who actually like had a brain about stuff. Mitsukake was a grown ass man though. He should have stepped in more. He was more of like the stoic, I'll stand back and let other people make decision types. And I'm like, Mitsukake, come on. You're
Mhm.
you're a fucking adult. She's
Mhm.
15. And I get in like ancient times 15 was like an adult or whatever, but she's
Mhm.
clearly a dumbass child. Please help her. She thinks about
Mhm.
food all day. That's her vibe. She's like, I want tamahome and hamburgers, and that's all I want in life.
In
She's
life.
she is a one-track pony here. That's all she wants, and she is just dumb as a box of rocks. Please help her. Help
Mhm.
her.
Mhm.
And like as a kid, none of those thoughts crossed my mind. I was just like, God, she's annoying because she's dumb as a box of rocks. I would never do any of that stuff. But also, I was also a dumb teenager. But I didn't realize I was dumb. And I thought that I was very smart because I was a teenager at the time.
Mhm.
But do you have
Mhm.
any shows like that you've gone back to watch since you were a kid, or done a rewatch of an old favorite?
I did a rewatch of one of the ones that got me into anime and was severely disappointed. I think it was Project Aiko.
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with
Project
that.
Aiko and Biko and Seiko and all that kind of shit. And so I watched that and I'm like, this is recalculous. This is recalculous and disappointing. And I think if I were to watch it again as I am now,
Mhm.
I would be like, this is hilarious and unhinged. So like we like when I watched it the first time, I'm like, this is so cool. And when watching it as an older person, I was like, I can't believe I used to like this. And now as an adult, as a further older adult, as a oh my god, dare I say middle-aged person,
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
it's like it's like, okay, this is like really shitty and really hilarious. So I'm gonna have to watch it again. There were movies, but not much. I'm trying to think if there's any media I rewatched as a child that like, because I wasn't really allowed to watch things like as like that. Like I was
Mhm.
able to watch things on a weekend. My mom was super strict, super strict. So I didn't have access to TV, to media, to music that wasn't gospel related music, or like not even really, or soul or something like that. Like I had to go outside the house to get exposed to things. Like there was one time someone was playing a song on the radio and I was like, this is no, they weren't playing it on the radio, they were singing it. And I was like, this is the coolest shit ever. And I'm like, did you make it up? You're so creative. And they looked at me like I was nuts. They were like, this is literally like on the radio. Don't you listen to the radio? And it was like, not outside of NPR. Like, what are you talking about? What do you mean there's other stations? Like FM what? Like it was just this whole thing. So I never got exposed to that. Then when I moved to Colorado Springs, I was working so hard that I didn't get to watch any TV. I moved to
Mhm.
California. I'm in an abusive, manipulative relationship. I'm working two jobs to keep a roof over our head because he's not working. Like, I didn't have the time to really experience anything that I could hold on to until I was about 27. So, about the time that we met was
Mhm.
when I started to be able to really take in different kinds of media. So it's only been a little bit over a decade that I've been like doing stuff. The one show that I did watch that I watched as a child over again was Xena, and it was still as awesome as it was then.
Nice.
And Sailor Moon.
Yeah, Sailor Moon holds up. Sailor Moon
Sailor Moon
1000% holds up.
Sailor
Um,
Moon holds up. And Sailor Moon held up, and also Sailor Moon, watching Sailor Moon as I was older, I'm like, Jesus, these are kids.
right?
These are kids, and they're in these awful situations. And like poor Usagi, she just wants to be. She also just wants to eat food and have a boyfriend.
Right. Yeah. No, like that. And the thing is, I think that's why it was an easy transition from Sailor Moon to Fushigi Yugi, is because the main characters are very similar. I will say Miyaka's much dumber than Usagi. Usagi is no, Usagi's pretty dumb too.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I'm like, I'm about to be
I
like,
was like,
I
no,
can't
no, they're both
imagine.
they're both super
I
dumb.
can't. I'm
I
trying to imagine it, but I can't.
One's a brunette and the other's a blonde. That's the difference between them. Okay, they both fell in love with a boy who was at least 2 years older than them, and he was also a dark-haired dumbass.
Mhm.
So who manages to like, but the level of trauma
Mhm.
in Fushigi versus Sailor Moon is much higher. It's much higher. Like Tamahome's whole family gets got and he like can't handle it and he takes it out on Miyaka. Like it's a whole he breaks her arm at one point because he's brainwashed.
What?
Yeah, no, like it's a whole thing. And I'm just like, how is any of this okay? Chichiri, save her ass. You're old.
Mhm.
You're like 19. Go take care of shit.
Mhm.
And then Chiriko is a literal child. Chiriko's like one of the other Suzaku no Seishi, and he's like 7 and has magic powers, but he's like the wisest of any of them. And I'm like, how
Mhm.
is this 7-year-old telling your ass what to do because you can't think and these adults are useless? What the fuck?
Wow.
But yeah, still watch it. I think you might like it.
Okay. Okay. It'll go
If
on my
nothing
list.
else, the soundtrack is an absolute banger. It's got this like ancient Chinese vibe to it while being like 90s pop at the same time.
Mhm.
And they have character songs. So I had the character songs album and I would like go to sleep listening to them. So I have them all memorized and will like sing along when they come up on my Spotify playlist because that is the level of nerd that I am. And I very
Spell
much enjoy
Fushigi
them.
Yugi.
Huh?
Spell it. Fushigi
F
Yugi?
F U. Sorry.
Because we're 12. Because,
Oh my god. Okay, so
because we're 12.
Fushigi
Okay, I got it.
Okay. There's
Wow,
there's the
57 episodes.
yeah, there's the main story and then they have 2 OVAs.
Okay,
And
cool.
they have like a new season coming up that I'm like, ugh, God, do I have to watch this too? No, the author is on some shit because she also wrote Ayashi no Seres, which
Mhm.
is about these twin stars that are like destined, but
I think I started watching this.
they're related. There is incest all over that fucking thing.
Oh
She
my
does not give
god.
a shit. This author is on all kinds of shit. So yeah, you either got like the assault train that's on Fushigi where it's just mad gaslighting happening all over the place, and then there's the incest arc over in Ayashi no Seres. Yeah, she has
Wow.
zero chill and does not care about anything. She's like, that author has no triggers. That author makes
Wow.
triggers.
It's like, here you go.
She's like, I don't care what you don't like. I'm gonna do everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of incest arcs. I will avoid most incest stories. I
Yes, me too.
the
But
ones that I have seen, I have no excuse for though.
I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about the step brother stepsister chose specifically. I'm thinking about citrus.
Okay, yeah. That one. Brothers conflict. Brothers fucking conflict. Oh my god. There's this
I
one
felt
comic on
uh-huh.
on Manta that's literally just a giant trigger, but the art is so good. I still read it. It's called Lady Devil. The art is so good though, but it's like literally just trigger after trigger. I,
Mm-hmm.
so I have a very love-hate relationship with this comic. But anyway, brothers conflict, go ahead.
No, I wasn't gonna say anything deep about it at all. I was just gonna say like I have found great enjoyment in Brothers Conflict because that shit was just ridiculous. It was
Oh my
stupid.
god, it's so dumb.
Um and Citrus, I do believe like watching Citrus, I was like it just Citrus triggered me not because like it triggered me because one of these the more aggressive of the girls reminded me of my ex-girlfriend in high school.
Oh. Yee.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like
That's a
this feels familiar in a
that's a
bad
whole
way.
different vibe. If one of the characters reminds you of your ex, that's like always a trigger. It's like, I don't want to be around him. I don't want to see him on TV either.
Right? 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 I was like, ouch. Not cool. So yeah, there's triggers in media. Be aware of your triggers. Look out, research stuff. It's okay to walk away from a show.
It is.
Um,
If
Me
something
saying
smells
this as a
fishy, it
person who
probably is.
it probably is. I've hate watched a lot of shows though, so
I mean, same.
hmm I
I mean,
hate watch Star Trek Enterprise.
you have watched me hate watch Boruto through these past few weeks, just like fucking hate these guys. Like
Hmm
the fact that we were rooting for the bad guys to win this last arc, I was like, yeah, we need to take a we need to take a fucking break.
hmm
Uh,
So
yeah.
yeah, you guys watch for it, and I think that's it for this week. Is it?
I think it is. Yeah, that was all the topics that I wanted to cover this week. And
Yeah.
next week, we are having on my good friend Erica, and we're
hmm
going to talk about charms. We're going to talk about concerts and how they work. And we are going to talk about smut again because we
Oh,
love
more
smut.
smut.
We love
Oh,
smut.
we love smut.
And what's
Oh my
interesting is
god.
so uh Erica is like trained in like family counseling and stuff like that. So I think she might have some really interesting insights on uh what we are drawn to in smut and why we're like this, which I would
That
be
is gonna be great.
right.
Please help me know. Help me help me figure this out because I am drawn to a lot of shit that I'm too embarrassed to talk about, but we'll talk about it on that show.
Yeah, no, there are no filters, which is why we will never
Hmm
ever be monetized, but that's okay.
Yes.
We're here for funsies, y'all.
Yeah.
Funsies.
Yeah.
The one thing that I did take away from the other podcast that I was hate listening to, is I think that we are going to set up an email and have
Oh, we have an email.
we do? What's the email?
Yeah.
Please expound.
Let me look it up real quick.
Because
I know it exists.
if you guys want us to talk about anything specific or have questions or just want to reach out and give us feedback, we have an email that you can contact us at, and we'll link it below. But also, once Rawia finds it, we'll just let you know what it is as well.
I know. I'm gonna send an email to myself from it. So I think it's Witch Shit Podcast.
That would make sense, considering that's what you have it on YouTube with.
Oh, then it's Witch Shit Podcast. Yeah, I'm gonna send an email to myself. Be like, "What's your name?" And then I'll be able to know for sure. All right, I sent myself an email. I'm waiting for it to come through. I really think it's Witch Shit Podcast.
And that's at
Yeah, it's
Gmail,
Witch
right?
Shit Podcast at gmail.com.
Perfect. All right. So, yeah, send that through to us, and we'll take a look at any feedback or suggestions you guys have, to our at least 12 loyal listeners. We love you guys.
We do. Thank you for joining us like every week. I'm so like I feel so blessed, so honored that you're letting us into your spaces and sharing this time with us, you guys. So thank you so much.
Yeah, because we have fun with each other and want to have fun with you too.
Yeah, we totally I want to have fun with you.
Okay, that sounded kind of dirty.
I know. I totally want to get on this Quinn app and record shit because I think that I
You
can make my voice.
should.
I should. I
You
should.
should.
I want
Oh
to
man,
record smut,
I want to do that too now.
right? Doesn't it
Yeah,
sound fun?
it sounds so fun. I I want to do like a villain to
Hmm.
lovers arc. I think I want to do like a
Oh
really
my god.
really evil. Make my voice
That's that's
evil.
my basis for Zutara. He's like, you chased me around the world. And he's like, now I'm chasing that ass.
Let me bend your back.
It's been great.
Yeah, we will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.